Have you met Neil?
Okay, welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is 9 a.m. Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next is citizen input for items that are not a public hearing today. Mr. Ron Bozell has requested.
Good morning, Deschutes County Commission. Is that working?
Yep.
I'm Rondo, otherwise known as Ron Bozell, longtime Bend resident and Deschutes County resident. Welcome back. I almost forgot what you guys looked like. I'm not talking to you now only because I didn't have anybody to talk to the last 3 weeks. I would like to make a quick note before my main subject. I've noticed on consent agenda item number 2, I'm a curiosity on that issue. It seems a little vague, and I would like to request somebody talk about that a little this morning. The main thing I'd like to say is that I do not represent an organization. I just want to say on the basis of the need for Central Oregons and Oregonians to have blood. I'm a longtime blood donor. And my commitment to this has been to date over 14 gallons. That's to brag, because I'm proud of that. I've saved lives. We are always in the red. And I'm not trying to be funny about that. No matter where we're at, for years back, this at least one organization claims that we're always not serving enough because we don't have enough blood. So that's all I want to say. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Advocate for the Red Cross today.
What?
Advocate for the Red Cross today. Yeah. So is there anyone else? Citizen input? Is there anyone online? Okay, thank you very much for joining us with the raised hand feature online. Doreen Tai.
Good morning, Commissioners. Doreen Tai. I am once again pleading with you to do something about the abuse from the flight schools at the Bend Municipal Airport. You know, I did a FOIA on the noise requests, and it seems to me a lot of people are saying, I can't believe this is legal. They're diving my house 5 times in a row. These, you know, they quiet down for a week, and then it's like they gave out my address and have then, you know, I can't remember the exact wording, but basically they're targeting them. You know, I can tell you from personal experience, everywhere I go, the river, the lake, there's the same tail numbers from Bend Aircraft Mechanics and Leading Edge. And, you know, maybe they're just kids terrorizing, but, you know, people who do that to people are really frightening. You don't know what they're thinking. They're just killing time in a plane trying to get some hours. But it's just so evil and so criminal. And literally the reason it's illegal to stalk people is because it messes them up. It messes up their cognitive ability. And you're not protecting the citizens of this county from those flight schools. And, you know, it's all over online that these flight schools are doing it, yet they're, oh no, we aren't stalking anybody. We aren't harassing anybody. But it's right there in black and white. There are tons of complaints. You do not own the airport, but you are responsible for protecting the citizens of this county. And you know, their flight tracking shows that they are a half mile away from my house when they're here. I've proven that time and time again. So they're also committing cyber crimes, showing that they're 1,000 feet up when they're, you know, just a few feet from my roof, when they're doing hairpin turns over me and showing a mile wide pattern. You know, and I'm not the only one in Deschutes County saying this. Why are you not stepping in and protecting the residents of this county? What are you benefiting out of this? If there's no benefit, then why are you not helping? Because this is just unjustifiable. People are being harmed. And we know that lead pollution from airplanes, especially when it gets up to 2.5 million times of them doing hairpins over a person's house per year, that kills people. I have plenty of dead neighbors now and people who died of very aggressive cancers out of nowhere. right as soon as these flight schools shifted a pattern over their house and started doing hairpins over them. It's unjustifiable. Please do something about these flight schools' retaliation and deciding that this is a good house to terrorize, whichever house it is for the day or the week. And one thing I have noticed is a lot of the houses that are targeted like that have tall trees that impede the flight floor so that they can expand the airport and put in lower, louder aircraft. So maybe that's a coincidence. They're taking out trees and chasing off longtime residents because we have enough say to be able to file a tort claim. I don't know. But like, this shouldn't even be a conversation. There's no reason people should torture people for entertainment. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, Doreen. As say, I've communicated with the airport director recently, and I do feel bad for the scenario that you're perceiving, and I don't know how to get past this. I've been out there in the field with you and understood the flight pattern, and there is a kind of a U-turn above the skies out there, but yeah, that's all I've got to say. Okay, anybody else? Seeing none at this time, consent agenda. Item number 2 was mentioned. I don't know if there's any discussion or, as I look at that, that is basically the Oregon Health Authority public health package of all kind of the line items. So I don't know that there's anything to discuss there. It's kind of the package that comes through, $4.8 million.
Well, I think it's important to recognize that only this year that we're only getting $60,000 more in this comparable package from prior years. So I did note that, Rondo. I just thought, wow, that's a really small increase. I would like to bring up, just to clarify, item number 1. It's actually, this is for our stabilization center funding. And it said that funding increased to $6,033,290. But that actually started in 2020. So no, we're not getting $6 million for our stabilization center through the end of the year. They just added another $378,491. But that is the accumulative number. And I did speak to Nicole in the department and she clarified. So just in case anyone was reading that and wondering how much are we spending, the numbers are, we've served over 4,800 people at the stabilization center. And I know it's incredibly beneficial for law enforcement of Crook, Jefferson, and particularly Deschutes County. So just wanted to clarify that. And then I can make a motion for consent agenda.
Sure.
Well, before you do that, I wasn't going to pull these items from the consent agenda, but I did want to make a request for some follow-up information on items number 1 and 2. Essentially, what I'd like to know is we just had a legislative session where impacts grant funding, public health modernization funding were all on the table. We certainly had our opportunity to advocate on those fronts. Tried to do a little bit, but I don't know actually where all those things landed at the end of the legislative session. So I just would like to make a request to Health Services Division if they can provide basically a legislative recap on impacts grant funding and also on the total package of public health funding for our public health division from the state. I am concerned that the funding levels are going down. I appreciate that there were one-time funds in prior years that are not going to continue at this point, and there are certain programs that we have basically shaved down in order to try to contain the FTE at public health, largely at the commissioner's requests, and to contain our general fund commitments to public health services. But it would be great to just get a more comprehensive understanding on where the legislature landed on funding for public health functions and the impacts grant.
Looks like Nick was taking a note on that right there. So we do have legislative debrief on the horizon. So I support, kind of putting that as a content item for sure.
But I have no concerns about all these items being moved forward in the consent agenda.
So is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded for the consent agenda. One note, on June 4th, we talked about the Medal of Honor highway system across the country that was started right here at our boardroom with Dick Tobiasen and our veterans efforts and advocates. And on my summertime trip that I was able to take right now, sure enough, there's the same Medal of Honor highway. And I saw it in Wyoming, the signs just like in Deschutes County, and then also again in Idaho. So I saw a couple other states with those big, beautiful Medal of Honor signs celebrating our veterans, which was just a great connection point for me seeing it in other states. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. She might have made the motion, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Okay. So at this time, action items. Item 18, we want to celebrate Kelly Candela, Administrative Supervisor, probably runs the road department for 30 years of service. It's just a moment. Congratulations and thank you.
Don't make me speak.
You already did.
You have
Oops.
10 minutes, yes.
Surprise. Good morning, Board. Chris Doty, Road Department Director. It's my honor and privilege to assist the board in presenting a 30-year service award to Kelly Candela, our Administrative Supervisor at the Road Department. We usually at the Road Department give people the option, our 30-year folks, of coming to this meeting and having this ceremony, so to speak. There's a reason why you've never seen me do it before. We have a shy group at the Road Department. Kelly is as shy as they come.
Yeah.
I did not give her the option.
Oh.
I said, we're going. She's had many roles at the Road Department over the years and has just performed exceptionally in those roles. You won't find this in her job description, but Kelly's office has always been a safe place for people at the Road Department, both, on the work side, but then on the people side. And many issues have been resolved in her office before they certainly make it to my office or the many predecessors of mine that she's overseen in the last 30 years. So we should all be so lucky here at the county to have someone like Kelly, in our departments. And now Kelly gets to say a few words.
Okay, well, you don't have to speak, but thank you very much for your service to the citizens of Deschutes County, the continuity of the whole department. The road department's amazing, switching gears, spring and fall, different services. Anything can come in the front door. So as I say, you've probably seen it all. But yeah, thank you very much for your 30 years of service for the citizens of Deschutes County. Any other?
Well, I would also thank you for your service. At a moment like this where there's all kinds of transportation funding package drama going on in the state, it kind of rises to the surface how much we take for granted that roads will be maintained, pavement will be safe, roads will be plowed, and that work that we all take so much for granted takes a whole lot of people at the state level, at the county level, at the city level to make happen and to maintain this transportation system for our community. And thank you so much for being part of that for 30 years.
And I want to thank Chris for not giving you an option. That's so wonderful about our road department is that the two of you, and you're here today, you made the big drive, 15 minutes, whatever, to come over and to join us. But no, to be recognized and acknowledge that it's people like you that make such a difference for Deschutes County, and so appreciate your service. And Chris, I appreciate your leadership. So thank you for working together so nicely. How many other road directors did you work with besides Chris? 5. Okay, wow. Okay, well, Chris, how many years have you been with us then as road director?
Turn them out.
Okay, so we found out a whole new story, and yeah, thank you for sharing that. So six bosses in 30 years, that's 5 a year. So Chris, you're way over the limit. He is a
We have a nice plaque for you and a congratulations letter and a photo opportunity. So
You mind?
join us.
I don't know.
May not make it back to the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Yes.
So much. You know, we're so great to see you as the first officer.
All right. At this time, item number 19, confirm appointments to the District Mapping Advisory Committee.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. I watched the Monday discussion. I was out of town on Monday, so I watched the Monday discussion. I can give a brief intro to the conversation here. There's the District Mapping Advisory Committee that the majority of the commissioners have established, and per determination, each commissioner will be nominating members to that committee. Commissioner Dare and Commissioner DeBonne will be nominating 2 members. Commissioner Chang will be nominating 3 members. On Monday's meeting, names were revealed by all 3 commissioners, and today we're here to just confirm the nominations, the final nominations to that committee. So with that, turn it over to you, and happy to provide any questions or support that you may need.
Acknowledge that there was a press release that was sent out with all the names associated with it and a little bit of media coverage on that also. So Commissioner Chang.
My fellow commissioners have already made their appointments. I made nominations on Monday, and looking at taking a careful look at the appointments that have already been made, and attempting to ensure complete representation for all geographies of the county, and some degree of balance along a number of dimensions. I would like to, at this point, appoint Carol Leshy. Thank you for joining us today to the committee. Andrew Kaza and Mayor Melanie Keebler. I will say I'm glad that we were actually able to accomplish geographic representation for the full county through these appointments. That was one of the factors I considered in appointing Andrew Kaza. I mean, he as a high up officer in the Independent Party of Oregon, he brings representation to a segment, a large segment of the voting population of Deschutes County that isn't otherwise represented. And he is also a resident of Redmond, and has been concerned about good government and democracy for a long time. And I would say this similar things about Carol as a leader with the League of Women Voters, an organization that has been dedicated to promoting good democratic process and good government for many, many decades. I very much appreciate Carol's willingness to serve on this committee. The mayor, besides being able to represent the people of Bend, being really one of the key chosen representatives of the city of Bend through formal election processes, also brings the perspective of a parent of someone, of a child who is not yet old enough to vote to this process. And I mentioned that I am concerned that if we draw districts based on numbers of registered voters versus numbers of people, total population, that we are essentially disenfranchising the residents of Deschutes County who do not get to vote yet. To say a kid, in a family counts as 2/4 of a person rather than a whole person, and doesn't deserve representation and consideration in provision of county services, I think is a great concern. The one other thing I would say is, I'm really glad we have accomplished some a proportional breadth of representation along a couple of dimensions. I will say that I am still concerned that we are not adequately representing the party affiliation spectrum of Deschutes County. More than a third of registered Deschutes County voters are neither Democrats or Republicans, and I haven't gone back to check the registrations of all of the appointees, but I'm pretty confident that we are not achieving more than a third of representation. For those folks who are not registered Ds or Rs, about a third of the registered voters are Democrats. Little less than a third are Republicans. And if if somebody wants to do the homework on the registrations of the people who are being appointed, I'm not sure if we're getting those proportions exactly right in terms of representing Deschutes County.
Thank you very much. So for this agenda item, do we need anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay.
What about our alternate? Because I do have an alternate.
So, yeah, so I saw that conversation on Monday. It sounded like there was different discussions on how alternates will be up to the commissioners if you want to name alternates now, or if you want to name alternates as a case arises. I'm happy to do either way, or a combination thereof.
As I say, my thought process was alternates are, something that we may encounter, but to put names out there right now is, I don't know the value of it. If somebody ends up in that situation, there's going to be meeting minutes, there's going to be video recordings, somebody be able to get up to speed. But it's up to you if you want to mention a name. I mean, it's just.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, they know they're my alternate.
As I
so
say,
there's an issue.
I've got other people that were interested also, so we'll go from there. Okay, so for item 19, names have been finalized. And as I say, I'm just working our way to item 20, which is a little bit more discussion on this topic.
Great, and we will have more joining us. I'm going to grab one extra chair.
Got the power players are joining us. Welcome. Thank you.
So I'll kick us off and then turn it over to some of our guests as well. Again, Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager for Deschutes County. Through this process, internally, staff has formed a working group to get materials ready and support ready for what we're calling the DMAC, the District Mapping Advisory Committee. Our working group has consisted of Nick Lelak, County Administrator, Steve Dennison, County Clerk, myself, Nancy Blankenship, our former county clerk, and Neil Bryant, a longtime resident and community member here in Deschutes County. So I'll turn it over to them to introduce themselves, and then we can get going with our agenda item for today.
Thank you very much for joining us. Working down the way.
That way.
Okay.
I'm Nancy Blankenship, and I am a resident of Deschutes County and formerly a Deschutes County employee. So it was an honor to serve on this committee, and I appreciate the opportunity to be serving for that.
You should say that at the end, Nancy. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
we'll see
all
about
done,
finish.
right? I'm sure it's going to be an honor. Thank you, Nancy, for serving.
Neil Bryant, a resident since 1973. And our children and 3 of our grandchildren grew up in Bend. I was a state senator for 8 years from 93 to 2001. I served on and chaired the Higher Education Coordinating Commission for 8 years. And the OSU campus was that. I've been president of the chamber, president of Rotary, first chair of the Deschutes County Children's and Families Commission, set up the Deschutes Children's Foundation, and also established the school foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So clients, when I practiced law for 45 years, included the school district, the Parks District, water districts, irrigation districts, and hundreds of small businesses and individuals. And as my clients got older, I went into estate planning. So thank you for your interest in having me facilitate.
Well, the Senate district was basically the whole county at that point, wasn't it? Because it's sure shrunk over the years.
Pardon, I could.
Do you think of the Senate district footprint was basically the whole county back in the day? I mean, I don't know when it changed, but yeah.
County,
Yeah.
Jefferson County, Warm Springs Indian Reservation.
Yeah, okay, so it was that big.
County.
Yep. Yeah, so that was the Senate district at the time, and it's sure changed over the years
No,
now.
it has. It's less than Deschutes County now.
Mm-hmm. Thank
And
you.
I should also say that we have contracted with Neil Bryant to be the facilitator of the DMAC, so he will be heavily involved in the process in a professional facilitator role as we move forward with the committee meetings.
Great.
Good morning, Steve Dennison, County Clerk. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to be on this working group. So looking forward to contributing in any way that is needed.
And then we'll have some kind of the precinct boundaries. That's kind of the meat and potatoes of this thing that we're going to start with. So you're, the active clerk with those precinct boundaries. And we'll all learn about how they change when they evolve, but also how to come up with a fair system of coming up with these districts.
That is my probably largest ask of this committee, is that they maintain and draw these district boundaries along our existing precinct lines. We do have some ability to adjust those, but I'd like to set that as a request going forward.
Yeah, great. So, yeah, we have basically just maybe a few items here. What I think of this is the draft guidelines, but really, the work product that we want to receive back is the Board of Commissioners. So I know that there's, the proposed guidelines and, maybe from a few items for us as a board to discuss to really get this landed, or just discuss amongst our whole group here to make sure we understand what we're asking for.
Yeah, and just to put a little context in there for those who are listening. So the working group has drafted guidelines for the DMAC as a guiding document to commence their work of drafting district maps for the commissioner's consideration. So what you have before you and is in the agenda packet are the draft guidelines that the working group has established. There are a couple places in there where we have considerations for the commissioners. But of course, the whole document is a working document. So if there are any other considerations the commissioners would like to discuss or to include that has maybe not been included, we can also, it's a draft working document. So we're here to work with you and hopefully land a document that works for everyone and that we can provide to the DMAC as a guiding group.
Great. So I think on the top of the second page, it starts off with, facilitator Neil Bryant will chair and guide the committee meeting. So, that jumped out at me a little bit. Just for the 7 people that are going to be out there, you'll basically run the meeting as a facilitator, not a voting member, but, kind of defining what the topics are for the meeting, moving people down a path together, taking requests for information from anybody on that committee, managing the public input at the beginning of a meeting so that I can see that, kind of define it as 15 minutes and how we're going to, how you will facilitate that. So just acknowledging that for the 7 members that are going to be involved. So nobody will have to think that they have to take the chair role on. They can all just truly be policy feedback and, domain experts.
And I do appreciate that that's set up at the beginning of the meeting. I think that is a good time to hear from the community that's wants to be engaged. So thank you for setting it up at the first of the meeting and not the last.
One technicality, there was a discussion of the schedule for the meetings on Monday. One of the people who I have appointed to the committee has specifically said that they are unavailable on Tuesday evenings. So my request was to gather the committee and identify a date and time, a regular date and time that will work for all 7 members.
We will do that.
Thank you.
And we can do that in the version of a doodle poll. I can send out a doodle poll pretty shortly this week, either later today or tomorrow, to all the committee members and to our facilitator, to try to find a time, whether it's earlier on a Tuesday. We'll list a lot of options there and try to land a time that works for everyone, but get that confirmed hopefully within the next week and a half. Along those lines, probably for efficiency, we will be setting up every member of the DMAC with a county email address. Probably won't be able to get that running for the doodle poll, so that will be the one exception to the communications. We'll do that with their personal email addresses, and then going forward, everything will be through a county email address. But we'll keep you posted on that and hopefully nail down a time that is workable for all those who are required to be in attendance.
Then having those emails will mean there'll be a kind of a group email also. So the citizen will be able to email a group email address.
That's a good idea. We
go.
can see if we can get that up and running too. Yep.
DMAC@deschutes.org maybe. Okay, and then as I say, this is going to be published following this meeting. So this is the guidelines as proposed. Any other things that are jumping out? Item number 4, 5, maybe 6 or something are kind of the variable items I'm seeing here on the last page. So
So you're looking under the map drawing criteria. Is that where you're?
just for discussion, making sure, because you have alternately in a couple spots here also. Just for us to discuss. So item number 4, population, census or voter registration. Commissioner Chang, you mentioned this already. Census population is from 2020 and updated count will not be available to 2031. But voter registration is updated daily. I know that the Portland State University does population estimate updates, interim updates. So there is some data there.
Yep. Just the point to make to that is that that data is not down to the census block level, or it's not granular enough to be current. So the most granular version of census data that the county has in their possession is from the 2020 census. So there's nothing iterative over the last 5 years. So that snapshot is from 5 years ago. So if you were going to base these districts on population off of a census, it would be from 5 years ago. The next opportunity, of course, would be in another 5 or 6 years. And that could be addressed or outlined as the expectation would be to reevaluate the lines with the next census data.
Yeah.
But right now, the most current data, again, is that we have in our possession is registered voters. I understand what Commissioner Chang had mentioned, but just want to bring that up.
Something I could recommend to kind of make the two data sets speak to each other would be to take the 2020 census data, break it down proportionally across the county, and then do the same by voter registration numbers and just see how the proportions compare. We may very well find that the proportions are pretty much still the same. So that would give us a sense of whether there's been significant deviation in that time or not.
Well, as I say, so this is the guidance from the Board of Commissioners for this process. The input is, do we expect the committee to, do some deep analysis? I mean, as I say, I'm thinking it could get really deep if we want to. And then kind of, show the work. And these will be public meetings. There'll be public process handing it back to us also. Voter registration is very much up to date. And then, I mean, absolutely want to, represent every citizen in the community also. And that's what a census does.
It's probably nothing prohibiting the committee from taking a look at both data sets. Comparing as they go through the process.
And then-
voter registration from, where it was in 2020, where it is now, and the 2020 consensus data. I think those would be three interesting data points to just put next to each other and evaluate.
We have that data. Happy to provide it.
Yeah.
So to just get further clarification on this point, would we like to provide that data? Is the guidance here to provide that data to the DMAC, and then they will make the decision on how they draw those maps based off of census, voter registration overlay proportion of those two? Or would the commissioners like to provide that direct guidance to the DMAC?
Yeah, so let's talk that through a little bit, because that's the value of what we're doing right now, because this is the input, and what we expect is a response from the efforts of the committee. Any specific thoughts?
I'd like to provide those three sets of data and leave it to the committee.
And I'm comfortable with that also.
And I'm just sitting here because it happens that Commissioner DeBonne and I actually live in those non-represented parts of Deschutes County where we don't have a city councilor that we can talk to. We live
We're the
in,
ones.
yeah, we are the ones that live in the country. And honestly, I feel that that's really important. I know you were saying that we needed to follow precinct lines, but I'm thinking we really need to think about those people that don't have representatives. If you live in Tumalo, if you live in Terrebonne, if you live in Sun River, you don't have representatives, your governmental representatives, like the people that live in Bend, Lapine, Redmond. So I feel like that's really important for the kind of decisions we make. And as I say, I lived in LA County and we had 2 million people in my district for my supervisor. I think I always knew their name. Did I ever talk to them? Probably not. But yeah, it's a different thought. So, making sure that people have someone to go to, I think that's really important. Yes, Nancy.
Can I speak on so just to talk a little bit about how precincts are designed. So if you look at the precinct maps, to address the questions that you were talking about, the city of Lapine is a precinct unto itself. The city of Bend has 20 precincts. The city of Redmond has 4 precincts. Sun River is precinct 16, its own unique. Black Butte Ranch is its own unique. So there are a lot of benefits when you're looking at the precinct maps of how they're developed to address.
But I think there are only 300 voters in Black Butte Ranch. I think I
Correct.
just read
Yeah, but
that.
I'm just-
So it's teeny.
Yeah, but just so that you know that there are specific boundaries lurking around each area so that they are looking at specific geographic areas.
Well, and the other thing, if you're going to keep them within a 5% range, it's going to be complicated.
But to address that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nancy. I just know there were only 300 in Black Butte. So,
Well, and that supports the concept that those 300 will be not split. They'll be in a district, but they won't be split down the middle, or
I know. Good.
is the thought. So yeah, okay. So no wording changes on that. Item number 5, district numbering. So just a fun little concept of after you come up with 5, how do you number 1 through 5, right? But I support the committee doing that, and it talks about by lot. So, and that is a request for clarity on here with the alternative terminology here. So do the commissioners support that? Having the committee
Yes,
number the districts.
sure.
Yeah. And then number 6, map will have 5 districts. So 5 districts opposed to 4 districts and an at-large position. Is this input to the committee from the Board of Commissioners, or leaving it open would be the way to look at that?
I prefer 5 districts. I think it's really important. 5 distinct districts.
I would prefer that we task the committee with making this choice, looking at both alternatives.
Is there any thoughts on that you can help us with, or is that just too hot of a political topic?
Or I guess I would also suggest that we could task the committee with doing both exercises and handing us 2 options, since ultimately the ballot measure that moves forward is going to be the Board of Commissioners ballot measure. We could task them with doing both exercises and and we could just have something to actually compare rather than just speculating about what the differences would be and trying to express a preference.
Is there any, would there be any motivation to speak on that subject? You don't have to, I'm just.
Well, you're then asking the committee to do two alternatives present to the commission. Is that correct?
That's
One
would be
with
his.
5 and one with 4 and an at-large.
Mhm.
It can be done. It's just going to take more work.
I'm voting for 5.
Yeah, let's keep it at 5 at this time. I don't want to have too many layers to this thing. You know, this is just the opportunity to define those 5 seats as the voter have supported, just to go to 5, you know, districts within 5% difference. So,
And by the way, the 5%, we picked that. The recommendation from Secretary of State says within 10%, but we're positive here. We
there you go.
5%. So that's not a state statute or regulation. That was just the recommendation from the committee. We'd like to go for 5%.
Good. Yeah. Thank you very much for clarifying that. You know, Secretary of State saying 10, so that's interesting. But yeah, let's go with 5 seats, 5 districts,
5%.
and 5%. There you go.
It's all 5.
If the 5%, if the precincts are lumpy and, you know, you can't quite get to 5%, I don't necessarily say that's a hard and fast rule.
Well, so then, I mean, we might want to put words in here that says up to a goal of 5% instead of no more than 5%. So it isn't hard, just in
We
case.
use the word recommended to be no more than 5%, but we can use a little bit more flexible language if you prefer.
Okay, I wasn't looking back
Okay.
at that other sentence, but yeah, so the other part of the sentence. So recommended. So that's fine. So 5%, and then, yeah, I mean, if you come in at some number just above that, there'll be a reason.
And if it were 6%, we'll tell you that and give you the reason.
Yep. Understood. Good. So the recommended, I didn't look back to that.
Again, yeah, keeping in mind, considering future growth, you might have an area that would put you out of spec on something, but it wouldn't be forever. You might be growing into that to level it out to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, understood. Well, okay. So anything else that's a variable in here, do you think of?
Those were the only variables. So it sounds like there's just 2 possibly minor changes. I'm going to change the language under the population to include that they'll be provided 3 data points, the consensus population, the voter registration population, and an overlay of those 2 for consideration. And then we'll nail down the schedule with the DMAT committee members and the facilitator. And once we have that confirmed, we'll update that language in here. When I have a final draft, then if there's no other considerations that the board would like to have in here, when I have a final draft within the next couple of weeks, we'll provide it to you. Staff will also be getting a website up and running that will list the nominees' names and provide documentation and meeting links, that sort of thing. So once we have the final guideline approved by the board, we'll get that uploaded to a website that will be created in the near future.
So one other note just jumped out at me is, and I had to underline the word, but map drawing criteria number 3, no district shall be drawn for the purpose of diluting the voting strength of any language or ethnic minority group. What about just saying ethnic group? I mean, defining minority is such a vague way to say, oh, yeah, well, I'm a minority, but if you're an American and you're in community, what do you mean you're a minority? So ethnic is fine, though. Just a proposal to remove the word minority.
I think these are I believe that these are standard principles that are drawn from other district drawing processes, and I various language, the wording, could be tweaked, but I don't think we should try to take away from the intent of these basic principles.
And as I say, I see it differently. I mean, if you're an ethnic group and there's a like-minded ethnic group, standing up to say I'm a minority is this little sharp edge that I don't know that we need to play with, but it does step into politics at that point.
The language was a cut and paste from the Oregon State Directive. That directive, for clarification, was drafted for redistricting that happens every 10 years. But from what we have found in research, that is kind of the language that has been used across the board for similar map drawing exercises.
That's fine. Just brought it up.
It's fine.
Okay.
Chair, I had one minor point under ground rules and expectations. I was going to add a fourth, and I haven't told Jen this yet. You revised Robert's Rules of Order for the meeting. If you have another source you want to use, we'll talk about it, but it's one that 90% of the people use for running a meeting. So I would just put that in there too.
So are the words in here? I'm trying to go back to see it. So is this?
They are not. No.
Oh, so
I think this is being brought up. Yes.
It would add a bullet point. Yeah, I mean, it's a good foundation to definitely run a public meeting and have nominations. Yeah, have nomination seconds, discussion, be able to do the minutes associated with it. So I support that.
While we're bringing up miscellaneous,
Sure, there we go.
another one that Jen's not aware of, but I think it might have been a miss by us as a discussion point. But Commissioner Chang brought up something that's earlier that kind of sent my chain of thought in a different direction here. As these positions, as the commissioner positions are nonpartisan going forward, I heard a consideration of what party these committee members may be a member of or not. I would like to think that this is going to be a nonpartisan committee and that any committee members would be able to check their partisanship at the door. So having language in here to say this is a nonpartisan committee and having that perspective going forward, I think will kind of keep people.
So explicitly in these guidelines.
Yes, I would make that recommendation, probably in the mission to some degree.
We can add in draft language for consideration for that too.
I mean, under criteria too, it says no district shall be drawn for the purposes of favoring any political party, incumbent elected official or other person, which operationalizes the goal that you're setting out, Steve. But putting that in goal or vision or mission language, I think is great as well.
I support that also.
Yes, of course.
Here we go. Dialing it in. So anything else? Thank you very much. This is the beginning of a process. We just got to the starting point.
Yeah, just kind of closing, high level closing statements. I want to thank you all, and I want to thank the appointees to the committee for committing to this process. It is a potentially very challenging process. We see across the nation, all kinds of concerns, all kinds of litigation around gerrymandered districts for Congress and other things. And it could also be a very smooth and easy process. I mean, you can imagine a case where, facilitated by an excellent team, supported by an excellent staff, and coming in with a commitment to, fair and balanced representation for everyone, and developing a common agreement about what fair and balanced means. That I see as the big task of this committee. You could see that very quickly and very smoothly producing, a really great set of district boundaries to propose to the voters. So that's my hope for the process. And I thank you all again for participating in this and striving for those goals.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You all.
Item number 21, consideration of a request to amend ARPA grant agreement with Sisters Habitat for Humanity.
Sure, yes.
Come on up.
Hi, Commissioners. Laura Skundrick, Management Analyst. And to my left, we have Peter Hoover, the Executive Director of Sisters Habitat for Humanity. So I'll just provide a brief overview of what we're proposing here today. So in 2021, you had awarded Sisters Habitat for Humanity an ARPA award of $800,000 for their affordable housing project located in the Sisters Woodlands neighborhood. With those funds, they have purchased the lots and construction is well underway. For the 6 remaining available homes, they did distribute 131 applications. None of those applicants, were able to qualify with lenders due to the 60% area median income or AMI rate that was required based on their original proposal back in 2021 and their grant agreement with us. So based on Sisters Habitat's experience on other projects using the rate of 80% AMI, they have not run into those same difficulties reaching qualified applicants. So Sisters Habitat is requesting an amendment to our grant agreement to increase the rate on this project from the 60% AMI to 80% AMI, which would be eligible under the ARPA guidelines. So that draft amendment is document number 2025-778. It's included in your meeting materials today, and Peter is available for any questions you may have.
Thanks for joining us, Director. And so this was the Habitat's proposal was 60%, and we were like, yeah, let's all do this. And now we're back a couple of years later, huh?
Correct. My predecessor, that was our practice back at the
Yep.
time. My predecessor, when she submitted the application, was at 60%. Back then, the conditions were such that
Yeah.
60% was workable. The debt to income ratios and credit scores, minimum credit scores that are required under the Oregon Flex First Home Lending Program that we utilize, the conditions have changed
Yeah,
in that
yeah.
time period and people just can't qualify.
I was just getting back to how we got here, so what was the intent when we started with 60, but thank you very much. Yep.
Can you break down for us like what not qualifying means? I mean, so I tracked you. You handed out 131 applications. Curious, how many people actually submitted theirs, filled out, submitted those applications, and then what it means that they were not able to qualify. Does it mean that they don't actually? The people who submitted the applications don't actually make 60% or lower, or does it mean that they did not meet certain criteria for 60% or lower applicants?
The criteria would be the same regardless of the household income. There was the maximum of 60% area median income for the applicable household size. Our application process requires that somebody get a pre-qualification letter from a lender that participates in the Oregon Flex First Home Program. In speaking with those lenders that we were aware the majority of the people who had downloaded applications would have gone to, the conversations with them said, yes, we were contacted by numerous applicants, but they did not meet the Flex program requirements of a minimum FICO score of 620. And their debt to income ratios exceeded the limits that had been specified to qualify for the loan.
So there were people who are below 60% AMI who applied, but they couldn't secure the financing that they needed to.
Correct. That is correct. And I'll point out also that by raising it to 80% AMI, which would be consistent with other grants that were made at the same time by different organizations that were affordable housing producers, by raising it to 80%, that doesn't mean that someone who is 70 or 60 or 50% cannot apply. It broadens the scope of potential applicants that will succeed in being able to have an ownership opportunity of one of these 6 homes that we're developing in Woodlands.
Understood. Is qualifying or not, meeting the ratios that we're talking about, is that dependent to some extent on the offering price that Habitat makes for the homes that under discussion. I mean, if the house costs $50,000 less, would it be easier for some of these people who did apply to qualify? And I'm not I'm not suggesting that, you know, Habitat magically try to, you know, drop the price by $50,000 because you know, I know that it costs a lot to produce housing, and that you're doing everything you can to put that housing within reach. But I'm just trying to understand the mechanics of the application and the qualification.
Well, it may be helpful, Commissioner Change, if I give you an actual example from Woodlands. The home's appraised at $530,000. We use a land lease model, which has a formula for setting what's known as an affordable base price.
Right.
That affordable base price affects the price that the homeowner, the maximum price that the homeowner would pay now, plus sets the stage for future homeowners to have an affordable price. That affordable price is not necessarily what the homeowner would pay. The homeowner would pay up to that affordable price. In Woodlands, the affordable price worked out, please don't quote me exactly on it, but I believe it was in the neighborhood of $220,000. So 530,000 appraised, 220 as the affordable base price. Typically, our mortgages on homes that have closed, the lowest was, if memory serves me correctly, 93,000. So that's actually what the owner was paying. And the highest that I recall was about 187,000 the owner was paying. So hopefully that responds to your questions.
Yeah.
With a real life example.
Well, this reminds me of Rooted Homes, when I was hoping we were going to have 2 homes for teachers and sisters a year ago, and there was only one person that actually qualified for that project, and that was incredibly unfortunate. You do already have the 4 Habitat homes in the Woodlands?
We have 4, 6 are pending construction. It's about a $2 million investment that we're making for the construction of these homes. And it grieves me to think of the prospects of 6 homes sitting there that are unoccupied because people can't qualify.
Right, but you do have to have that credit score of 620 minimum.
That is an Oregon Flex First Home Program requirement of 620 minimum.
So any of those people that didn't qualify the first time, would they still have the potential? I know you do a lot of credit training, all kinds of wonderful education for people to get them in their first home. Are those people, let's say in maybe 6 months, could they raise their credit score to the 620 and it would make a difference for them?
There's
Okay.
come into play if there was a reduction in interest rates, for example.
Right.
The raising of the credit score by paying correction of the DTI, or a more favorable DTI by paying off debt because of counseling that they receive, or an increase in income, whatever. There's any number of factors that come into play. And all of those people who secured an application from us, they are welcome to come back again. And our fingers will absolutely be crossed that this time they will be successful. Now, that would create a challenge since we only have 6 homes of 131.
I know, I'm thinking that. I mean, that is really astonishing that 131 people were out there hoping to make a difference. And I really appreciate your program and sisters. You do such a good job, and we've got to get those other 6 homes done. So yeah, keep up the great work.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to emphasize that when I was asking all those questions, I'm not, I will support this this proposal, but I'm just trying to figure out how we make more homes, how we put more homes within reach for the folks who are at 60% or below. That was why I was asking about kind of the, you know, the price as an aspect of this, and you know, those actual paid numbers are really helpful to understand. It really is about the credit score. And
It is. It's about the credit score and the DTI, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner. Sisters may be somewhat unique from other areas within the county where affordable housing producers are working, in that, for example, there is no surplus ODOT land. There is no surplus county land. There is no surplus city land. We don't get community development block grant money. Our Land is extremely expensive in Sisters. A 10,000 square foot lot that I recently tried to obtain was 465,000 was the lease that I could buy. It was a corner lot. There would be $75,000 just in street development fees that would apply. We have some significant challenges because of conditions that are, in my eyes, somewhat unique to our community.
Yeah. And the Woodlands itself came out of former federal public lands.
Correct. And for the record, I would like to mention that Sisters Woodlands Development has been extremely generous in the reduction in price that they've given us for their lots. Extremely generous.
Yeah. Yeah. One more question about improving people's credit scores. So I do believe that Neighbor Impact offers financial literacy, first-time home buyer, financial training for people. Are you able, as people put in for these homes and don't meet the qualifications, are you able to share information with them about where they can essentially learn how to improve their credit score?
Yes, we make them aware of Neighbor Impact's program, and we do require certain courses. If someone does make it through the application process and selected, there are certain courses that are required from a HUD-approved supplier, and Neighbor Impact happens to be one of them. Mortgage information is one of the required elements. So, we also partner with one of the banks there in Sisters and have a monthly financial education opportunity for not only our applicants, but the general community. And we appreciate the participation of WaFd Bank in providing that service to us and the community.
Great, thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yes, I move approval of document number 2025-778, amending the grant agreement with Sisters Habitat for Humanity, document number 2022-154 to increase the AMI threshold to 80%.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. There we go. Congratulations. Great partnership. Go and do good work.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Let's hope it actually, something can really happen with these the remaining 6 lots to get that finished, because if we have 131 people out there that need a home, we need to get that done. And keep going, Peter. No, thank you.
Item number 22 is a final decision remand of Thornburg Destination Resort modification. Thank you for joining us, Jacob.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jacob Ripper. I'm a principal planner with the Community Development Department. On June 18th, the board deliberated on a remand from the Land Use Board of Appeals for the Thornburg Destination Resort. It was a request to modify the final master plan by amending the Fish and Wildlife Mitigation Plan. Following those deliberations, the board voted 2-1 to approve the application. A written decision has been included in the agenda packet for today. A final decision on this matter is due August 5th, and this decision becomes final upon signature and mailing. With that, I'm available for any questions. Otherwise, there is a motion included in the agenda request and staff report. Thank you.
Great. So this is the package in response. And we basically, deliberated and got to our conclusions already on this matter. So I don't know if there's much to say here today.
I'll just say that this decision, the revised Fish and Wildlife Mitigation Plan, are still inadequate in addressing concerns about no net loss of habitat and tribal treaty rights. And so I will be voting no.
I do support this. There's a lot of great justification about how the water rights are being moved around and complying with that no net loss standard. Also clearing and thinning of the 5,000 acres of juniper landscape is going to be a positive to the environment. But as I say, I don't know, we probably don't need to go into it too much here today.
Right. actually, they were calling it thinning, which is incredibly significant. If you hear Doug Riggs, who grew up on Klein Falls in this area where there weren't juniper trees, and it's amazing the impact that they do. And I'm just thankful that they are taking them out on a thinning basis.
So is there a motion?
So I move approval of document number 2025-764 and approval for the remand for a Thornburg Destination Resort modification file number 247-25-000229A.
And I will second it. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Commissioner Adair?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
No.
And I will vote yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Available for signatures.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks.
Item number 23, a license agreement, Redmond School District, right-of-way. This happens to be a right-of-way, even though it's a big area.
Morning again, board. For the record, Chris Doty, Road Department Director.
We may have somebody online for
We got
this.
someone
Yeah,
online.
okay, good.
Tony Pupo, the Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Redmond School District, is joining us to help answer any questions that may flow out of this discussion. Chrissy Bollinger might be popping in as well, as this affects, an additional county-owned parcel. Again, for the record, Chris Doty, Road Department Director, I'm here to present a license agreement on behalf of Tumalo Community School and the Redmond School District to allow for use of a portion of public right-of-way on Wharton Avenue in Tumalo to accommodate a small storage shed and portable restroom in the expanded right-of-way section. There's a map attached to the staff report here that kind of shows you the unique nature of how the right-of-way kind of blends into the river area. And so it's a lot wider than your typical 60-foot county road right-of-way. It's where this is being proposed would be outside of a normal 60-foot right.
Mm-hmm.
The riparian area adjacent to the river presents a unique learning opportunity in proximity to the Tumalo Community School. As explained to us by the school district, the shed would be used to store tables and chairs and basic scientific equipment, butterfly nets, things of that nature, such that the school would not need to coordinate hauling of that equipment and those materials down to that area every time they'd like to do an outdoor learning opportunity. And again, Tony Pupo's online and prepared to address, additional issues if the board has questions. Again, the right-of-ways widen that area, and the shed and the restroom can be coordinated without conflict to the road operations or parking or really anything of that nature. What you have before you is a license agreement. This is a revocable license, which means that if it's not working out for any reason whatsoever, the license can be pulled. And the school district's aware of this, and they're not making a substantial investment, in an actual foundational improvement. This is one of those portable storage sheds, and so it will be planted there in the community. If it doesn't work out, it can be revoked. Is what I'm trying to say. The license agreement contains indemnification clause and insurance requirements that address our concerns over liability and getting sued, so to speak, for whatever reason with association of use of those improvements and or just having people in that area doing that thing. In addition, there's about a 4,300 square foot county-owned parcel within that riparian area, and again, the map kind of highlights that. That the school district would like to access as well. It's not the only riparian area in that area that's publicly accessible. You can see how the right-of-way kind of transitions into that river corridor, so that's publicly accessible. So, but that 4,300 square foot lot would give additional space for them to do their various scientific explorations. As noted in the staff report, a permit of entry can be issued to the district to supply permission to access that parcel, again with indemnification and insurance requirements provided by the school district. And that's an administrative process. Hopefully Christy's behind me. Did she wander in, or she might be online? I'm on my own. Hopefully I've explained it well enough.
Eric will come support you.
Okay, all right. And if you have any questions on the permit of entry and the thought process there.
Yeah, Christy's en route, but I did work with Christy on some of the insurance requirements that we would require.
So that board, do you have any questions specific to this item that myself, Eric, place Christie, or Assistant Superintendent Pupo can answer?
So specifically, a couple years ago, we had a request for the community to have trash receptacles and bathrooms down there. So there's some history here. And if there's a trash receptacle or a bathroom out there, it'll probably get used by all kinds of folks inadvertently. So yeah, I mean, have you probably thought through that, but what's the plan?
I think that, as explained to us, the restroom would be locked. Certainly wouldn't be there during probably the summer months where that area is more accessible.
So probably spring and fall, it'll come and go. And I'm just acknowledging, because we've had these discussions in the past where there's, and it may be just down the river a little bit from here, but people requested, well, we'd like to put trash service here because people come by and they just leave garbage sometimes. But if you even just put a small little round trash receptacle there, it'll pile right up.
Yeah, totally understood. I think the thought is, they'll most likely have to be some signage that they'll attach to the structure to let people know what it's there for. And why, it's not publicly accessible.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to say I don't have questions or specific concerns about this specific proposal. I do think that it is it sits within a significantly larger issue that we all need to recognize and think about as we evaluate this proposal. Which is the recreational or public use of this chunk of county property. I am a huge fan of people connecting with the river, recreationally enjoying, the Deschutes River. It is, one of the treasures of our community. I am a huge fan of educational opportunities, schools connecting kids with the river for hands-on learning. So those are things that I think are great values for our community. And we also need to think about this property not being set up to support those uses. We have done almost nothing in terms of infrastructure development. Despite the fact that this piece of land receives a huge amount of recreational use, and there's trash, there is potentially significant impacts to the riparian zone and the floodplain. There are potentially very significant liability issues associated with use of that land. And one of the reasons I struggled with this proposal when I first read about it was, I do think in the long-term big picture, Deschutes County needs to actually do a real formal, infrastructure investment, recreational development at this site, or turn it over to someone else who is willing to do so. Because it is a very attractive place, obviously, for recreational or educational use, and we are not setting it up appropriately to accommodate those uses.
Any other discussion, or is there?
I just
support?
noticed that we don't have, legal counsel doesn't have their initials on our attachment in our file.
That usually gets routed after the meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I do believe there is,
This was routed through legal prior to arriving.
just wanted to confirm that because there is exposure there. So, helping the schools out, helping Oregon kids is, I think, very important, especially the school that's right there.
Motion?
I'll move approval of document number 2025-530, a license agreement with the Redmond School District for use of Wharton Avenue right-of-way to locate a storage shed and portable restroom.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare, and Chair will vote yes. Thank you very much. Hopefully the kids have a good time out there. Learn something. Item number 24, solid waste disposal fee waivers for this next fiscal year. I guess we're in that fiscal year. FY 26.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Tim Brownell, Director of Solid Waste Department. Before you, this point is the a resolution for approval of $43,000 of fee waivers to be granted to nonprofit organizations that are conducting thrift and reuse programs. The board is authorized to grant up to $45,000 of funding. We have this year 10 organizations that have made requests. We're granting we have the ability to grant up to $5,000 per organization. And this year we have a total of $43,000 in waiver grants that we're submitting to you for approval. In addition to that, the department, as director, I have the ability to grant up to $10,000 in fee waivers for public land cleanups. This past year, we granted approximately $5,800 to community groups and nonprofits engaged in those cleanups. We actually granted more than that. They just some of the organizations had not completed their cleanups, so we've rolled them over into this current fiscal year. Additionally, we've started reporting some of the fee waiver credits that we provided under the FireWise program. That is actually part of the Fire Free program. The department grants a 50% waiver in that, and then our hauling partners, franchise haulers, Cascade Disposal, and Republic Services grant the other 50% waiver. They're paying half the fees on behalf of those cleanup efforts. So we want to acknowledge their efforts. That's part of the broader Fire Free program, which in total, the waived fees for free disposal of yard debris is close to $300,000 this year, with over 50,000 cubic yards of materials diverted out of our community and disposed of during the Fire Free week-long programs at each of our transfer stations and not landfill. So with that, the fee waiver request for $43,000 is in front of you, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thoughts?
Tim, what about year end now? It's according to our schedule, if they had unused credit from last year of last fiscal year of $7,700. So has all that been used up then through June 30th?
Not all of it, but about a remaining 4,000 roughly was not used.
Okay. No, I really appreciate this. You know, there's some really good organizations that are listed there that do great work for our community, and I'm just glad we can do our share to help them with their mission.
Yeah, these the awardees of these waivers are helping to reduce reduce waste and recycle or reuse products within our community. They're helping to clean up our public lands. They're helping to with the new proposal, they're helping to make our community safer from wildfire, and so I'm really glad that we can provide these waivers. I would also say there's there was a point where the county elected to put a little bit more money into what's called the Secure Rural Schools Title II program at the Forest Service. Chris had to basically give up $10,000 of money that would have otherwise gone to county roads to beef up the Forest Service Secure Rural Schools Title II program. And, you know, when I encouraged us to do that, I specifically said I wanted the groups doing public land cleanups to be aware of those funds and to be encouraged to apply for those funds. And I don't think that really happened. So you know, this kind of falls in between several different county departments, but I would love to see some follow up on essentially when these groups contact solid waste, them being handheld essentially through the process of seeking those funds through the RACs, the Resource Advisory Committees organized by the Forest Service. There's you know, a couple months ago it looked like this was moot because I didn't think that Secure Rural Schools was going to be reauthorized by Congress, but that legislative effort has gained new life, has already passed through the Senate during this congressional cycle, and you know, is sitting at the House with you know, apparently a significant amount of support. So I do believe that Secure Rural Schools is going to be reauthorized. I do believe that we will be making Title II elections again, and you know, I will encourage us to continue to make a little bit more funds available so that those groups that are doing these great public lands cleanups can do that work, and we don't have to pay for it. You know, I'd rather them get grant funds to be able to pay the fees at the landfill, because we need those fees to dispose of that waste, than for us to you know, try to absorb the cost of that ourselves.
I appreciate that comment, and I'll look into that, and I may follow up with you on it. There are some fees that we can't waive that might be very helpful with these fundings, things like appliances, hazardous materials, tires, etc., that might be eligible for that funding too. So there are some groups that are doing even larger cleanups. We saw that at China Hat, and we imagine there are going to be some other very large public land cleanups that are going to far exceed the threshold that I'm able to grant, which is $2,000 per organization. So
Right.
I appreciate those comments, and I'll follow up with you on it.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, it kind of, this isn't all solid waste responsibility, but we don't specifically have a, you know, county staffer whose job it is to support public lands cleanups either. So you know, that's why I'm looking at Nick, asking if we can kind of connect some dots there.
Well, I want to thank the partnerships and you know, the hauling companies, the community organizations that are involved with this. I mean, this is good to get things moving, right? Instead of saying, "Oh, I got a pile of stuff, I don't know what to do with it, and I can't seem to," you know, maybe not valuable or whatever, because there's all kinds of different things that'll end up through these, reuse programs, thrift, and public lands. So it's good that we have this in place, and it's a good partnership. It is the people's fund, right? Enterprise fund for Deschutes County Solid Waste. So we're making that policy decision for everyone. Is there a motion?
I move approval. A resolution number 2025-026 approving solid waste disposal fee waivers for the fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes. Good discussion. Thank you. Item number 25, consideration of a resolution adding one limited term duration within IT. Limited duration FTE. Get the word.
I'm IT Director and CPO, here to talk about the resolution for having a full-time employee in So in our current portfolio of software, we do have custom developed software that has been built on outdated technology. And so we are hoping to reduce our cybersecurity risk around those applications. And what we did is engage with Oregon State University CAS the Center for Applied Systems and Software, and did a pilot program with them with the hope that we could use student labor to help us redevelop some of those applications. Unfortunately, the cost of that, even utilizing student labor, was so significant that it would only allow us to do one application per year. So we're shifting and we're changing direction. So what we're hoping to do now is hire a limited duration developer for 2 years to help us buy down our debt in that area. And then giving us the ability to then maintain at that point. So that is the hope, and we already have the budget there, so it's in material and services, so we'd have to move it into personnel. Because we were hoping to use that for the pilot program.
So it was already planned for, but this is just how it's going to be executed. And then I'm just envisioning the fact that you have this person and the current staff knowing that, okay, the higher priority is whatever it needs to be for safety, security, stabilizing, configuration management. And then the goal is maybe to find different software and
We looked at.
Anya, could you talk into the microphone a little bit more, just so in case people that are watching the meeting can hear?
Yeah, did I answer your question?
Good.
So you have an estimated start date of August 1st, like, isn't that next?
Yeah.
Yeah, like next Thursday?
I think we were waiting on board approval, and so it took a little bit longer, but yeah, September, October.
Any other questions or a motion?
I'll move approval of resolution 2025-031, adding 1.0 limited duration application systems analyst 3 FTE within the fiscal year 2026 Deschutes County budget.
A second.
Any other discussion?
I'll just say, thank you for trying to keep us caught up with the rapidly evolving cybersecurity needs of our times.
And acknowledging this is a pretty high level position, being able to take what was, what is, and what needs to be all at the same time. So calling for the vote. Who made the motion?
Commissioner Chang.
Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
Commissioner Adair.
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Item number 26, Central Oregon Health Council Community Health Project Grant Application. So just acknowledging on our agenda, we're basically ahead by 40 minutes or something like that. I don't know if we want to try to get to this afternoon's items. We should let somebody know if we're going to do that or take a break and reconvene at 1 o'clock.
Is it possible to bring them up, to move them up?
Yeah.
Which one up?
Well, just looking at it, since we're most of, 45 minutes ahead, we could just bring both items from the afternoon and finish them this morning. So we'll maybe take a little stand-up break at some point, but then maybe try to power through.
Yeah, I'll be happy to coordinate with both. And then the other question I had from Christy Bollinger is also asking if we want to move executive session up.
Okay.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah, so if she's available, it probably will work.
Okay.
Either we'll finish the morning with it or slip to 1 o'clock or something, but that would be an executive session.
I'll coordinate with everybody right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Hello. Yeah, just rolling today, yeah. Well, Monday, we were right on the agenda for every item. Today, we've just been ahead the whole time.
For the record, Shannon Brister-August, Interim Behavioral Health Director. Here today in my program manager role, though, to request approval to apply for a grant. So I'll give you a little context and historical. In 2022, we requested from the board to be able to apply for an ESA stimulus grant, mental health block grant funds. And we received, at the time we applied for 150,000 and they liked our application so much, they gave us 250,000. So that funding was used to purchase shelter care beds with the Bethlehem Inn. Bethlehem Inn, this allows us to buy beds in advance and to say, hey, if someone is experiencing a mental health need or crisis, and we can safely divert them from hospitalization or incarceration through this coordinated effort, we'd like to do so. Unfortunately, these funds are going to expire September 30th. Part of those funds were used with ARPA dollars that will no longer be available. There's not great resources for us to be able to obtain this funding. And there's an opportunity through the Central Oregon Health Council. In 2024, the BI informed us that they provided emergency shelter to 319 young adults, many of those who have co-occurring needs. So our request today is to be able to apply for this grant. We'd like to expand that beyond our ESA clients, so to include all young adults that we see experiencing a mental health crisis or need. Those align with the Regional Health Improvement Plan with projected outcomes of reducing health disparities by offering safe shelter combined with mental health services, ensuring stability and safety, decreasing anxiety or environmental factors that contribute or exacerbate mental health conditions, enhancing integrated care by formal agreements that we would have with the BI. We currently have those in place and they work well. And improving health outcomes through housing and comprehensive treatment. And then finally, and the biggest one, is reducing economic barriers by diverting from hospitalization or incarceration. We've had great success with this, and we'd like to be able to continue. So if awarded, we're requesting $100,000. If awarded, we could be awarded up to 5 years, and $86,957 of that would go directly towards the BI. I have a success story if you want to.
Yeah, sure. And success. Yeah, this is exciting being able to, find a path for these resources. But yeah, go ahead. Success story time.
I didn't write this one, but I'm going to.
Okay.
In early 2023, law enforcement encountered a young person in the community who appeared in need of help. The officer who had been trained in CIT, Crisis Intervention Team, knew this young person was struggling and worked with them. The young person was agreeable to coming into intensive use services, or what we call IYS. IYS staff met with the young adult and offered them support through our drop-in center. The young person was offered food and warm beverages and a place to stay until we could find out more. We contacted the crisis team and they were connected with our burn case manager as well as a young adults in transition case manager. Behind the scenes, the intensive use services staff consulted and developed a plan which included outreach and coordination with crisis. Our crisis team came over and conducted in the drop-in center an assessment. And collectively, we all worked together to come up with a plan, which included shelter care. Our burn case manager was able to provide safe transportation to shelter care, and the team was able to coordinate with the other clinical team members for long-term support, and we were able to connect with the young person with their family. So this is a pretty holistic kind of example of what occurs in intensive use services, everything from our community partners at law enforcement, shelter care, our crisis team. And my guess is that this young person probably would have ended up either hospitalized or potentially incarcerated if we hadn't intervened. So this grant's important. Our resources like this, we struggle to fund them in other ways, and that is our request for today.
So big picture, any thoughts about the Central Oregon Health Council grant funds? And as I say, I don't know if you're going to have a feel for this, but my understanding it's kind of shared savings, PM dollars coming to Central Oregon, investing it in good things. But that might all change in the near future, just with the federal going on. And I don't know, who knows about that, or do you have a feel for it?
Who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
we apply for the opportunity because it exists today. We know everything is up in the air and could change. And but today this opportunity exists, and
Yeah.
And it is a good way for us to, again, to be able to have that guarantee. If I call the BI, they say yes.
Oh,
So the-
yeah, absolutely.
We have
So-
an agreement with the loft for our younger ones. We
good.
have found ways to fund that through some dollars that we get through our CFAA, but the older ones is a little more challenging.
Yeah.
Okay, how old are the ones that get to stay at the loft?
At the loft, we go up to the loft age, which is 21. So they start at 16 to 21. They do have some wiggle room for some older young adults as of recently. And so we have a pretty comprehensive approach with both, if someone is an adult, but maybe is better suited at the loft, so they're 18, then we can work with them. If not, we can, if they're better suited for the BI. And we look at development and where their needs can best be met.
So can we ever have more than 3 people then at the Bethlehem Inn?
Yes, I mean, so these are just guaranteed beds, right?
Right.
They take our young people, 319, I mean, in 2024. So they take our young people all the time. This is just a way to create some infrastructure and also for us to have this coordinated effort so that when people go into care or go into shelter care, they have that coordinated mental health aspect. It's not just here's a safe place to stay, but also let's get you connected with someone that can maybe help you with some long-term stability.
So this is applying for a grant, Central Oregon Health Council, Community Advisory Council.
I find it interesting. They called it the spring grant.
I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I think we're in summer now.
And it's due August 1st. So
Might have slipped. Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
and it's,
to get a yes, so we can write it next week.
yes, exactly. That would be great.
Spring is when they're going to award it.
No,
Now,
no, they're awarding it in October.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's
I don't know why the name is.
okay. Well,
Well,
seems like a good opportunity. Can I make a motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that we are thinking about shelter as this component of holistic, of a holistic care program to get people supported and on track. And I hope that the Central Oregon Health Council supports this proposal.
Me too. Thank you.
So making the motion then to authorize health services to apply for the Central Oregon Health Council Community Health Programs Grant.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Good to see you today. Yeah.
Good luck.
Item number 27, notice of an intent to award a contract for behavioral health deflection program. Got the crew here today. Thanks for joining us. And you've been here the whole meeting, a couple, yeah.
They don't trust us. We're really,
Hello.
Jeff Price, I'm the business manager at the sheriff's office and introduce themselves.
Jessica Venerable, Sheriff's Office.
Neil Marchington, I'm the deflection program coordinator.
Heather Haroff, procurement manager.
And I should say that I'm standing in today for Captain Schultz. He's very regrettable that he couldn't attend today. He's very passionate about this program. You know what a great leader he is. Cares deeply about people and improving their quality of life. And so this grant program we look at as a win-win, this deflection grant. Not only helping to improve the lives of some of our fellow citizens, but then it also helps us limit the strain on some of the resources at the corrections facility as well. So we're here today to seek your approval for our intent to award the deflection program grant. This is the second year that we're going into it. First year we saw some successes, and we're looking forward to continuing that momentum and carrying some of those successes into the second year. And you'll also notice that we're looking to award the grant to the same 2 facilities that we worked with in the first year. So with that, I'll open up the floor for your questions or comments.
What I think of as Deputy Marchington is what's that scenario that happens here? You know, somebody is already in jail or trying to be diverted from jail, just little scenarios.
So we've got a variety of roads and we look at trying to keep the door open as many ways as possible. So the ideal deflection happens in the field. It gives law enforcement a tool. Officer on the streets finds somebody, they're passed out in a car on fentanyl. What do we do with them? We have an option. We see the drugs, we have a crime, we can take them to jail. And sometimes that's the right thing to do. But for a lot of folks, these low-level offenders, offering them help is a different road. And so this is an important field tool for law enforcement. We've also opened it up to community partners. So we're working with the homeless outreach community. We're working with different medical providers and teams throughout the community. We are also working on other options to just open even more doors. We also do go through the jail roster every day, look for any eligible candidates, confer with DA Gunnels and his team on who's appropriate to deflect once they're in the jail. But sometimes that means I take them right out of the jail, with the DA's approval, take them right down to the Taylor Center, which is part of Best Care, get them engaged with treatment. So, so far we've had 29 successful completions in the county. We've got 22 active clients going through. So we're still a baby program, but we're building this up quickly, and I think the momentum is very good going forward.
Great. Thank you very much.
29 successful. Okay. I mean, this is really what we want to do. And I know Captain Schultz, this is part of his mission. Because remember when he did the analysis in the jail, it was like 92, I think, % of the people there were mental health and or substance use. How many, I originally, I think I had it down that you had 11 successes, 10 failures. How many failures is that? Is it still 50-50-ish?
No, we've had 19 failures to date. We have with our current clients and our past client successes, 72% right now are engaged or have completed successfully.
That's really outstanding. I bet their families are so relieved, amazed, and, do you keep following up for a period of time? What do you do?
Yeah, so we modeled this after the LEAD program that's running up in Seattle as well as in Marion County. And the way we look at it is we're there for them forever. As long as this program exists, we've got peer support. We never cut them off. We're always there for them because recovery is forever. These folks are going to be in recovery 10 years from now still. And, I've seen some pretty incredible stories. One that just really touches my heart, a man I've worked with for 12 years, mostly on jail work crews. He's got his kids back. His partner and him both went through inpatient. We resolved multiple criminal cases across multiple counties. Just incredible. 30 arrests in Deschutes County alone. And I know Redmond PD does not miss dealing with him on a weekly basis.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. That's really important.
One more piece of the summary information you provided. Can you remind us how long the deflection program has been operational at this point?
Since September 1st of last year.
Okay,
So we're not even a year old yet.
Right. I'm trying to remember when deflection was kind of legislatively created. Was that just in like April, before that September, or?
Yes.
Pretty rapid progression. I know I got involved in July when Captain Schultz came to me, asked if I would be open to running this program. So from late July till September 1st, we had to hire staff, get 2 contracts in place for peer support, design the program, coordinate with all the community partners like DA Gunnels. All the police agencies were involved in the formation of this. It was a pretty record-breaking rollout for a major new government initiative to go from late July to we're operational on 9/1. I think we had our first deflection on 9/4.
No one would believe that government could be that efficient. It's a great story. And yeah, after legalizing all those drugs and we saw what happened to our state, to actually making a difference is really to be commended. So thank you for stepping up.
And Deputy Marston, when we initiated this program, the philosophy was start small with something we are confident we can be successful with, and then grow from there. I'm curious about how you feel about that trajectory at this, where we are on that trajectory of, starting small and growing, and how you feel about it. And then I'd also love to hear if you have any data points from around the state of, other programs that also tried to, start small and grow, or, tried to bite off the whole enchilada at the beginning, things like that.
Well, of course, we deeply appreciated the input of OHSU's Addiction School of Medicine, and Dr. Dan Hoover has just been a fantastic mentor through this. DA Gunnels was really clear from the start that the best idea was to run this as a medically indicated program. What's the best medical course of treatment for these folks? So we really took to heart the input of OHSU. It did give us some time to grow. I think we could have grown faster than we did, but it did let us vet some of the ideas, learn how to do things, and we have grown quite a bit. I think we're at probably still a fraction of what this could be. And my goal is to continue to expand those partnerships. I'd like to be involved with all the fire agencies, for example, for overdose response. And we're not there yet. And I don't know if the grant funding is complex from the state. There's a formula under the new law just signed by the governor on Thursday, where we're going to have to find out what our funding is, and we probably won't fully know that until sometime later in the year. So we're building it, but we also have to operate in the realities of what funding is available and what those projections from CJC ultimately are on how they fund the program fully.
And are those funding allocations going to be made based on success of your program, or are they going to be made based on some kind of population and other kinds of formulas?
I should have a briefing a little more firmly on this next month. With the law just getting signed into effect on Thursday, CJC hasn't been able to fully finalize their guidelines. What we do know is the law talks about participation. So essentially they want as many doors as possible open to this program. And I fully support that and agree with that model. The question is, how do we design a program until we kind of know what our staffing and funding is? So we're in a cycle with that, where we'll have to go through the CJC budget analysis process and through their data analysis, and we come up with a good answer. I have a lot of experience with CJC, and I think overall they try to look openly and realistically at things. So I think we're in good hands, but that is not a set situation yet.
Thank you.
So also, since we're talking about the grant application, so we just found out this week that they will be opening it. The end of next week is when the process will open, where we can apply for the first phase. And that they want to get that done really quick so that they can get some funding out to programs so that they don't run out of funding before that they can fully decide all of the criteria. So there'll be 2 phases for this grant application, and I'll submit a staff report and probably throw it on the consent, since we're talking about this process right now. And also Captain Schultz had wanted me to bring up that we did rerun those numbers. And so we were just over 92% last year in May. So we ran it again May this year, and we're at 91 and change. So we're like 0.5% different.
That is so amazing, because when I said we were at 80% at the AOC meeting once, there were a couple of sheriffs sitting there, and they're all like, no way. And then I came back and I said, no, we're actually at 92. So, and I also want to acknowledge, I believe Josh Lair was the man behind Ideal Options. Had the privilege of sitting with him at I think a breakfast. And, I'm so glad that we're actually making a difference. So that's like 200 people right there in our jail that could be helped if that percentage is that high, and to change their life story. So thank you. Thanks for doing that count again.
So Ewing did a lot of that work, so make sure she.
Okay, great. That's really, I think it's, it's really sad to think, but you know what? The good news, we don't have, mental health beds in this state. We're really at the bottom of the list, but at least if we can help the people that are in our jails, and as I just said, change their life story, I think that's so important. And so, I know it's on you, the pressure, but making a difference is really appreciated.
So big picture, Deschutes County, we raised our hand and said, yes, we'd like to do a deflection program, right? So then we qualified for it, and now we have money flowing through the county to these providers. And that's what we're doing. And we've selected our providers, which we've already used. And now we're going to officially contract with them, but this is the money as a qualified deflection program in the state of Oregon. There we go. I see lots of nodding heads. Yeah.
One more question, kind of along the line, looking specifically at the contracts to be let. So I'm tracking that there was limited response to the request for proposals. These are organizations that we have worked with before. Can you comment on their past performance? I mean, was that one of the criteria? in the evaluation and you know, how good have they been?
Yeah, I would say they've been excellent. So peer support is one of the huge components of this program. And that's what Josh really modeled over in Marion County, was that peer support is the key to this program.
Mhm.
So under the current grant and current contract, they provide 4 peer support specialists, 2 from Ideal Option, 2 from Best Care. They also provide a manager and the Taylor Center operating location, which is just behind the urgent care over by Dandy's. So it's been a really superb location to come out of for a variety of reasons. It's really close to a lot of the action that Bend PD has locally. And it's an operating location that is open 365 days a year. It's not open 24 hours a day. You know, we'll see where the funding goes. I'd love to see a future where if there was adequate capacity that we at least have on-call peer support after hours. But that's going to cost more than 400,000, and I just don't know if we've got that yet. So we may come back at some point with a supplemental RFP or supplemental process to open that up if that funding's available. 400K is not going to get us there.
Do we have, so, you know, thanks for recapping on the performance. Do we have metrics? Like, are there some specific metrics that we use to just say, you know, objectively the performance is excellent?
Yeah, well, of course, one of the ways we measure this, OHSU is our research partner. They're under a contract with CJC in the state of Oregon to research this and tell us how we're doing. What we're looking at is social determinant of health factors. So things like changes to houselessness, the type of treatment engagement, things like that. Whether somebody does the treatment or not is a step. And then, of course, CJC is also looking at things long-term, like whether recidivism is affected with this. I think we're just too early in the process to say whether recidivism is affected in a substantial way. I think the early data that I've looked at is suggestive that it's helpful. But, you know, some of these folks have only been graduated for days to weeks to a few months.
Right.
I think we're just too early to say that. So I think OHSU and CJC are really conducting that research to see what every program is doing, what the outcomes are. So there's a state database that I have to report all this in. All that information comes from the navigators who are the peer support involved that actively run the program. You know, so I think the early data is very, very good.
Great.
Time will tell on whether it plays out in a long-term way.
I'm guessing that the early data is going to suggest that later things like recidivism are probably going to look good.
Yeah. Yeah, anecdotally, I've some amazing outcomes.
That's great. Right.
Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of document number 2025-606, a notice of intent to award a contract for the behavioral health deflection program.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
Commissioner Adair.
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes. Thank you for the discussion today on education on that one.
Just also wanted to make sure that we thanked Kim and Heather for all.
Oh,
Great job.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those numbers too. Thank you for reanalyzing and seeing that we're right there. We're 90%.
For the next one too.
Yep, item number 28, notice of intent to award a contract for county's purchasing card program.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Heather Haroff, Procurement Manager.
For the record, Robert Tintel, Chief Financial Officer.
Today, we're requesting approval from County Commissioners to change our vendor from the purchasing card program, commonly called P-cards. P-cards function like a normal credit card, but are for government. And so there's a lot of different additional protections that we can put on it and settings that we can put on those cards to make them a better program for us. When I first joined the county, I was tasked with evaluating our current P-card program. And so to do that, I reached out to all different departments, sending them a survey, giving them the opportunity to tell us what's working well with our current program and what are their pain points. And also, I spent quite a bit of time talking with end users just to see what their experience was with our current program. Our current program is with First Interstate Bank. And based on what I learned from the survey and the input from individuals, I decided to do an informal request for information. I reached out to 5 banks, including First Interstate Bank. And our research was the research was based on program and system functionality, customer service, and also their rebate program. There's just as a side note, there's no additional cost for the county to use a purchasing card program, just for that. After reviewing those areas, US Bank checked all of the boxes that staff was looking for. And they were also a successful candidate for City of Portland when they went out for a competitive process. They did a formal RFP and included cooperative language in there. And then also their award also included cooperative language, which allows us to piggyback off of their contract. We would be doing that, piggybacking off their consortium cooperative agreement via a participating addendum. And there's a number of other Oregon cities and counties that have also done that. First Interstate is still going to be our general banking vendor. This request does not change that at all. And we'll still have that same relationship with them. To ensure a smooth transition, my plan is to run the programs in tandem so that we don't have any gap in services. And then I'll start to phase out the old program and phase in the new program. And with that, you have detail in front of you in your packet, and I will turn it over to you for any questions that you might have.
So Ben, end user experience and purchase card administrative overhead. I mean, what are the values here? What cost less, easier interface? What's the big?
Yeah, so the new program will actually give us higher basis points. So right now we're receiving 150 basis points, which ends up being a rebate of 1.5%. The new program will offer 2.36%. And at our current spend, that's an increase of almost $18,000 without doing anything different.
Okay, so there's financial opportunity.
18,000 a month?
A year.
Okay.
That would be amazing.
Just wondering how much.
Making money by spending money. Wait a minute.
Enough to pay for an employee appreciation breakfast.
Oh.
And just to be clear, so yeah, as Heather mentioned, we don't pay for the P-card program. The banks actually pay us through the rebates. So, and this is also why finance also encourages the use of P-cards as a form of payment. Paying by P-card is cheaper than paying by check, which includes actually the cost of the check, but postage now, which keeps going up the envelope, but also the time it takes. So P-card is an efficient way to make payments for smaller items, right? And we get the rebates, and the rebates that we get back from the bank does come to finance to cover the costs, staff costs of running the program. So then all departments benefit because it reduces our costs, which lowers the cost we charge out to departments. So it really does benefit the county by having this P-card program. And it has all the additional controls that Heather mentioned as well.
Great. So we're just starting a transition process by selecting this partner in this project. Any other questions or thoughts?
So do they actually send us the money at the end of the year? How do we get that 18,000?
It's actually issued to us quarterly.
Oh, quarterly. Okay. All right.
And actually, update the way it's currently working. We get points added to us, but then we physically have to go in and draw it down into our account as a cash credit, and then that's when we recognize it. So, but yeah.
Great.
And there's already a U.S. Bank account associated with Deschutes County or not?
No, we don't have to have a specific account for that. We do have, no, actually, we just closed the US Bank. We did have one.
Yeah, yeah.
was
But
one
we
teeny
actually
one,
just
wasn't there?
closed it.
Because I know it's important to really keep track of who's got a name Deschutes County on a bank account. I know it's very serious business.
Right. So we will set up a relationship with them, obviously, but I don't think we need a checking account.
Yeah, okay,
So,
understood.
so we won't have an actual checking account.
Good. So this will be an intent to award contract. Is there a motion?
So move approval of document number 2025-780, a notice of intent to award a contract for the county's purchasing card program via participating addendum.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank
So that was the end of our agenda items for the morning session, but since it's 11 o'clock, let's just take about a 5-minute break and then reconvene for Planning Division Work Plan Update. And looks like people are coming in for that already. So little stand-up break.
Thank you.
We're back from a short recess to do our afternoon action items as it's 11:05, but we can fit two of these in an hour probably. So item number 29, Planning Division Work Plan Update and Direction.
Good morning. Planning Manager Will Groves. I'm here, of course, for the Planning Division Work Plan Update. Community Development Department is here to request Board Commissioner direction for priorities on long-range projects in the coming year. We, of course.
Video, I don't know if she. There you go.
Here I am.
Yeah, there you go.
So in the memo, which has a lot of detail in that, of course, in Table 1, there's projects that we currently have underway that include the from the Planning Commission, the 10% minor variance that we discussed. Senate Bills 75 and 83, those have to do with the repeal of the wildfire hazard maps and making sure our local code is aligned with that. Some farm and forest housekeeping amendments, as well as the comprehensive plan update, which you're all well briefed on. So those projects are moving through their life cycle, and we're starting to think about what comes next. And we have 3 projects bring to the board's attention for potential prioritization, and those are summarized in Table 2. I'm going to go first kind of at a high level overview of those, and then see what level for each project you want to dig in and have some discussion. The first project we went.
So question, just put it in perspective. So this is beginning of the new fiscal year. Were you seeing this about this time, or is this new capacity that we're talking about?
This is, we saw this coming generally.
Yeah, okay.
At a number of projects that are in progress, and we're starting to think about what comes next and look.
Yep. So this is kind of standard. Okay, now what's the next
Yeah,
step mid-year?
July, early September for this check-in, and there tends to be one in the kind of the winter as well.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the first project on Table 2 has to do with wildfire mitigation, mapping and fire hardening. As I just mentioned, of course, the state is in the process of repealing their fire hazard maps, and that puts us back kind of in a Deschutes County process. So one of the repeal bills, Senate Bill 83, allows local governments to have their own fire standards. And in 2019, Deschutes County convened a Wildfire Mitigation Advisory Committee, or WMAC. The outcome of that was to recognize that the entire county is in some way subject to fire hazard, and that wood shake roofs and wood shingle roofs were prohibited countywide as part of that. There was a consideration in 2001 of taking further action, and then as it appeared that the state was going to step into wildfire mapping and hazard regulation, we stood down. So there's an opportunity now to consider revisiting what, if any, local actions we'd like to take with regard to wildfire hazard. And so to the extent that the board was interested in this project, CDD would come back with a scope of work to talk about doing local community conversations about creating wildfire hazard maps and thinking about where R327, the building code provisions, might be appropriate. There are some timeline issues there associated with some state actions, the formal repeal of the wildfire maps, as well as implementation of the building code, but it would be a moment where we could begin thinking about that if the board was interested in that topic. The second topic is the Terrebonne Community Plan. So, of course, in addition to the comprehensive plan, we do regional plans. We do Tumalo, we do Terrebonne, Newberry are plans that have their own appendix to the comprehensive plan. There have been some interesting changes in Terrebonne. The sewer district there, the sanitary district, formed in 2023, has advanced significantly. In coordination with ODOT, sewer mains are installed on Highway 97, 11th Street, and Smith Rock Way. And more than 100 properties have been annexed to the district. And despite some funding turbulence, they are still hoping to have opening day in 2028. And it's important to note that the existing community plan was really based on an assumption that septic would significantly limit growth. And while there are provisions for multifamily housing and higher growth in that chapter, they could stand a tune-up. And so I've had conversations with the sanitary district, and there's some interest in the community in seeing a revisitation of the Terrebonne Community Plan. These things roll out as a significant public engagement and questions about aligning county policy with that sewer infrastructure, tuning up development standards, and ensuring that community character, stormwater, transportation issues, and public improvements are done in tandem with growth. And these projects are typically coordinated with certainly the local districts there, the Sewer and Water District, as well as the City of Redmond and ODOT. And these tend to be 12 to 18-month projects. The third project here for your consideration is a high desert land concept community conversation. So of course, applicant initiated non-resource land amendments continue to be controversial, use up a lot of our resources, and proceed frequently into the courts. And noting that the 2025 legislature had some unsuccessful opportunities to limit opportunities for landowners to rezone out of EFU. We see an opportunity here for something that I see coming out of the comprehensive plan, and it's been called a high desert land concept. And it's an idea of kind of investigating what's possible for these rural lands that rezone out. You know, there have been concerns about lot density, certainly about wells have come up significantly, open space, wildlife considerations. And so as currently proposed in the memo, this would be a community conversation, a road show going out to Sisters, Redmond, Bend, Alfalfa, South County, to think about what might be possible, the history of the EFU zone, take a look at kind of the status of those laws, and think about what might be possible in terms of these high desert lands. Certainly a recognition that while we have vital farmlands, some of these lands, have been found to not have key farming characteristics in recent cases, and thinking about, how we mean as a county and a community to approach those. I think we already know there's a real diversity of opinions about that. And that conversation, kind of the end result of that would be a white paper to the board from community development saying, hey, we had these community conversations. Here's where perspectives and opportunities. Some things that have come up in kind of informal discussions are questions if we could incentivize a reservation of open space or agricultural conservation easements through tax incentives or through other measures. So maybe, there had been one of the things that came out of the comprehensive plan was an interest in what might be done in incentives as well as regulations to see where we could take opportunities here. Another concept that had come out of this was potentially requiring shared wells. So exempt wells had been a significant concern with each, a 15,000 gallon per day limit. And that it's our understanding that you can have up to 3 people on a shared well and they share that 15,000 gallon per day limit. So reduces the number of straws, potentially reduces the total consumption of wells, might be something that in the future a board might consider requiring as part of some sort of development or clustering of rural lands. So opportunities, incentives, potentially restrictions, but right at first, a community conversation to think about where people sit and what the opportunities and challenges might be with those rural lands. And then finally wanted to note that when we last visited you on this, you had asked us to prioritize the Newberry Country Plan over the Terrebonne Community Plan. And we wanted to note that a couple catalyzing events have happened. First, as I've discussed, the impending Terrebonne sewer district opening in 2028. To the extent that you would like to see rules in place to support that development of up to 800 units in Terrebonne, we would need to start that process relatively soon to align with that opening day of the sewer process. In Newberry Country, when we talked to you last, we had applied for an EPA Community Change Grant for significant projects in South County, and that was not ultimately funded. There are 2 other things which suggest that that it may be prudent to delay Newberry Country Plan. The first is Senate Bill 1154. This is awaiting governor's signature. It's been approved by the legislature, and it has to do with streamlining groundwater concern areas and declarations of contaminants in groundwater. And as we understand that bill, it provides an opportunity that should DEQ identify an area of a county as a area of impending or current groundwater degradation, that it's possible that sewer systems can be put in without Goal 11 exceptions. This is something, of course, that we've been talking about for decades. DEQ would have to lead the way there, but should that happen, that would be a moment for the county to talk about how and if we would like to see community sewer systems rather than per property septic systems. The second has to do with Newberry neighborhood land sales. Of course, the new neighborhood, we have quadrants 2A and 2D out for sale. If either of those are sold, there will be significant dollars that currently are allocated to improving groundwater protection in the area and refurbishment of septic systems. And so that would also be a catalyzing event that would suggest that increased involvement in South County would be prudent. And of course, on the last page of the memo, talking about table 3, these are projects that have not been formally initiated. So we have another clear and objective housing standard update having to do with multifamily housing, sitting in the wing, likely would be a paired project should you direct it with the Terrebonne update. There was a project that was funded by DLCD grant dollars and extended into the next year to explore urbanization coordination. And then we have our list of zoning text amendments, the list that you saw in the spring. So really here today to get your perspectives on where you'd like us to see effort directed in the future. And in each case, this would be, to the extent you provided direction, we would come back to you with a work plan and look for confirmation on the scope, timing, and relative priority of these projects. But just here to gauge your interest in those and see what you'd like to see us start warming up for you.
Well, working back from Newberry Country Plan update, that a lot of focus, but now there's the Newberry Regional Partnership visioning document just put out there. There hasn't been neighborhood sales, which is really interesting. And then the EPA grant was this big thing on the horizon that's probably not going to be there anymore. So yeah, I mean, I'm just letting you know, there's not too much heartburn about not proceeding right now. It's vibrant, it's exciting. There's still a couple home sales monthly in each, Polish and the Russell quadrants that are being built out. They're still slowly building out. A couple other projects happening in town. So there'll be, it'll be out there, but it's not too much concern to not proceed at this time.
I think you have moderate down next to, is it lot line adjustments and replatting? It's on the table 3.
Yes.
And did not Adam Smith, who used to be in county legal, suggest that could be something that maybe we could do something more with than moderate?
Oh, excellent question. So these are 2 separate topics. So the
Okay.
2% lot line adjustment is before the Planning Commission. That ball is in motion and seems to be progressing well. This was to deal with some difficulties in some incompatibilities that come from our decades-old lot line adjustment rules locally and some limits on those. And what's happened is in the meantime, starting in 2008 and really in 2015, the state stepped into the lot line adjustment business and now has much more nuanced rules that really broadly I find more effective. So what we have is we have a big hammer approach that says lot line adjustments for substandard lots, those smaller than the 10% size, those smaller than the minimum lot size can only be reduced by 10%. And under the state rules, it's much more nuanced and it provides some real opportunity. We've run into circumstances, let's say I'm a farmer, I've got 79 acres and my neighbor who's got 40 acres wants to take over the back 40, basically. I'm done, I don't want to farm it. Here you go, neighbor, take it. Under our local rules, that is incredibly difficult. And the state has recognized that, there's opportunities to shift land between property owners in ways that represent beneficial use. And they've really gone robustly into making sure that people aren't double counting land that's required for acreage requirements, for example. The project that you're referring to is a problem that we've run into in both Terrebonne and Tumalo. And it has to do with lot line adjustments being used to really reformat communities. So in many jurisdictions in Oregon, you can use a lot line adjustment if you and your neighbor are looking to move a fence, for example. But what we can is that without formal regulation, someone can come into Terrebonne and Tumalo and do dozens of lot line adjustments and really fundamentally change the roads, the streets, the access, the platted configurations of lots, which is a great opportunity, to represent new development. And at the same time, without having a requirement that those lots, rather than being done as lot line adjustments, many communities require them to be replatted, which requires, more coordination with the fire department to ensure that access, drainage, other issues are dealt with. It's a community conversation to be had. We saw these happening 5-10 years ago in Terrebonne and Tumalo. And in both cases, in the Tumalo case, as you're coming into the roundabout from kind of the Shevlin Park direction, there was that housing development that was upgraded there in Tumalo. And while broadly, those are developed, there was some frustrations for the fire department in terms of the alley accesses and other considerations. So that's a project that's sitting there on the back burner, but is not Adam's project or the project that Adam Smith talked about.
Okay, Good. I wanted
Yeah.
to, so the Terrebonne Community Project,
Mhm.
I worked really hard because the 2.5 million that was needed for the sanitation system got kicked back by the feds. And so I'm planning on working on that for a short session to see if I can get that funding through the state. We kind of started in the middle of session, but I would really love to see that baby be taken care of. And, you know, they've got such amazing community support for that project for the sanitation. So the community itself is going to have opportunities when that happens.
Well, you can think about the way that Sisters changed when sewer. It's just the type of both residential and commercial development that's possible with sewer. You know, I mean, nobody's formally proposed it, but with Smith Rock right there, you could imagine restaurants.
We've already put 3.1 million into Terrebonne, you know, with upgrading the wastewater plant from Redmond. There's all kinds of things that are happening. So I think, yeah, Terrebonne community is probably appropriate.
I wanted to circle back on the Newbury Country Plan consideration. I'm tracking all of the, you know, everything that's been said and the comfort with, you know, deferring that. I do want to say that Senate Bill 1154, these groundwater area of concerns provisions were created with Deschutes County very much in mind. And so we have an opportunity to essentially be, you know, a lead in working with the state to kind of figure out what these groundwater area of concerns can do. And, you know, potentially they can do some really good things for us, including allowing that basically, you know, automatic goal 11 exception opportunity. So I want to make sure that we're not just passively sitting back and waiting for the state to, you know, make things happen there, that we're actively engaged with that opportunity. And I don't know how big of a project active engagement with, you know, Senate Bill 1154 implementation is. But you know, I'd like us to consider that as one of our high priority projects, you know, for the coming year or the year that we've begun for CDD. And you know, and I you know, if that's really okay, well, that is community development department director work and it's not for long range planning staff, then, you know, and so it's taken care of, you can say that and that's fine. But I don't want us to miss this opportunity to really seize this new possibility for Deschutes County that could allow us to work on a very long-standing problem.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we've been reaching out to our partners at DEQ and are tracking their understanding and interest of this. It was our intent to watch this closely, and to the extent that it was going to consume significant resources that might compete with other resources, we would be back to you to talk about that. So definitely we share that interest and concern in making sure that those opportunities are there right now. It's interagency coordination, tracking that process. But we can definitely keep you appraised of how that's going. And then to the extent that we might need to back burner some other project to advance that, or if you'd like us to consider that, we would be back at a future meeting like this one to talk about it. But definitely something that has our full attention as well.
Well, and it's a high level policy understanding. I mean, you know, fine if it says, oh, this was done for Deschutes County or Southern Deschutes County. That's the first time I've heard of it. I mean, yes, this bill is out there, but nobody's ever said, hey, let's go fix something that's going on over here. It's just something that showed up in the legislative process. So getting the citizens up to speed is my point.
Getting the citizens up to speed is important, but you know, I did mention that in early discussions with people about 1154 during our legislative meetings, I mentioned that they were specifically interested in.
Who's they, though?
The legislators, the
Yeah,
governor's
so-
office.
People, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So,
You're getting people up to
so
speed.
it shouldn't be the first time that you heard it. That's what you said, first time you heard it, so.
Well, the first time I've heard that it was for Deschutes County. Yes, I've heard of the
I
bill, but you
specifically
specifically
said- I
said that it
specifically
was
said-
for Deschutes County's problems, and that's the first time I've heard that.
No, I said that Deschutes County was one of the places they had in mind when they were
Yeah, who, and who's
crafting this.
they, so yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, we'll work through it.
You could ask more questions earlier. All right. I would like to express interest in the wildfire mitigation, mapping, fire hardening element, proposed opportunity. I frankly skeptical that we're at a moment where we can have a mature discussion about this. I mean, given the way that the politics of the wildfire hazard map, the statewide wildfire hazard map played out. I don't believe that we could have a meaningful community level discussion where we talk about the real potential benefits of requirements for defensible space and home hardening. So that's all. That all just goes to say, I think that that's a very important. That would probably be my highest priority, but I'm expressing skepticism that it's a viable project. I also don't necessarily think that we're at a point where we could have mature discussions about the high desert lands goal.
Who's we when you refer to that?
We meaning the Board of Commissioners, the community of Deschutes County.
So there's, a big divide on the concept of personal property, personal responsibility, community norms and culture. So, I mean, it's like,
There is a big divide. I mean, there's assertions that we're taking people's property rights when in reality, what we're doing when we rezone properties is we are giving people new property rights that they did not have before. And, I believe that when you're giving people new property rights that they did not have before, there is both a responsibility and an opportunity to ask for consideration of certain community values in that process.
Well, I have an interesting question. If my house was built in 2005 and it has, the hardy boards on the walls and everything, those boards are not required in building in today's world in Deschutes County?
Commissioners, excuse me,
Yes.
for the record, Kyle Collins, senior planner. No, currently in Deschutes County, outside of some very specific circumstances, you can think of places like the West Side Transect Zone, for example, or the Miller Tree Farm developments. There's no specific, what you're referring to are like the R327
Right.
building code standards. Those are not mandated really at a broad scale anywhere in Deschutes
Okay.
County. We do have one-off examples.
So I was just fortunate that I bought the house with the concrete walls then, right?
It is, I mean, it would depend, it'd be a case by case basis, ultimately. The developer, the choices of the individual property owner, et cetera. But there's no requirement in building code. If you were going to build a house tomorrow, for example, that
You wouldn't
says,
be required to do that.
no.
That's fascinating. Well, did work to get the 5.2 million for the 7 counties for juniper removal. And then I found out that actually it was talking about doing 100-acre minimums. So I've been talking to Soils and Water, if they can allow neighborhoods that have a lot of junipers to go together and meet that 100-acre minimum. But, we have, over 21,000 properties that were designated high risk by those original maps. So I really feel like, and hearing about the fire, the Highland Fire in Crook County, you could hear the junipers exploding if you were listening to some of those. And then seeing where they actually got the fire stopped in Jefferson County was where someone had done extensive juniper work on their property. And it gave the people with the, the big equipment in order to give them room to stop that fire. And the weather helped. So I just feel like, well, I think that's unfortunate. I think we really do need to make our standards. I know it's going to add some costs, but didn't we have those numbers a couple of years ago? It was going to cost like 2,000 more for definitely there's a cost involved, but for fire hardening and for insurance purposes, I would think it would be, this would be the time to make a difference.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and what you're referring to is following the Wildfire Mitigation Advisory Committee process. So that was in 2019, leading into 2020. We did sort of a broader community outreach of if we were to adopt standards, how would the community feel about it? There's a report that we can pass on to the board. You've seen it in years past, but as a part of that
issue is now though, Kyle, how many people have lost their insurance? There's only a couple companies that are insuring in the city. Sisters is actually being at the front of this situation. And because people are losing, the insurance market has totally changed since 2019.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are certainly living in a different world. The question of cost, I think, is an interesting one. And ultimately, it does depend on who you ask. There are lots of different reports. There's a report from Headwaters Economics that suggests that it's effectively the same price ultimately to use these, or within such a range that it's negligible. And then there are members of the development community that would argue otherwise. And so it's difficult to get what you might describe as a truly objective statement there. Ultimately, those would be things that we would bring forward to the community and try to get the best information that we could.
Well, I would emphasize that some of those arguments are supported with meaningful data and some of them are just speculation. And in my opinion, some of the high-end estimates about what building with wildfire resilient building materials might cost in addition are purely speculation, unsubstantiated by data.
Are you interested in kind of prioritizing 1, 2, 3, or picking one of these, or where could we go today?
I think that you could see any type of information from these are interesting. Warm them up and bring us back a work.
Yeah.
We, the board, will tell you.
Yeah. How long? Yeah.
You could say, this, give us a 1, 2, 3, and we'll bring them in order. Or you could say, we're not really interested in one of them and keep that on the back burner, or kind of retool it. So in each case, it's we would be back to you with a kind of a more developed plan. But we're just wondering if you want to see resources allocated to developing, more than a back of the envelope sketch that you have in this memo for any of these programs.
Well, the wildfire, I would say, is number one, considering current situation. I would really appreciate if we did Terrebonne next, because that will help if I am going back to the legislature and asking for 2.5 million to finish that funding so that we can incorporate that plan before 2028, if we can, pull it together with adequate funding. And then that leaves the high desert lands third.
At the same time that I'm skeptical that we actually could do the wildfire project right now, I will make an argument to prioritize it. And it ties back to the discussion of insurance. What we have right now is a mismatch between motivations of property owners, motivations of governments, motivations of the insurance industry. In abandoning the wildfire hazard maps and the requirements that were associated with them this last year, I literally felt like what I saw was people saying that they were more afraid of their insurance company using those maps to raise their insurance premiums than they were of a wildfire burning their house to the ground. And as we know, the maps were not being used for insurance premium or coverage determination purposes. So basically what people were saying was, we are more worried about insurance than we are about our house burning to the ground. I think that is a problem. That mismatch is a real problem. I would like to, I'd like to see people put keeping their house from burning to the ground at least on equal footing with their concerns about insurance. But I understand why they are in that situation because it's in part because insurers are currently not recognizing things that neighborhoods, communities, property owners do to actually reduce the risk of fire to a given home in premium and coverage decision making. I think that to get the insurance industry to do that, to start to recognize that someone has really done something to reduce the risk of loss of their home, and that should be rewarded. Local communities, property owners, homeowners actually need to play a role in educating insurers about that. And by undertaking this project, saying that this community is serious about genuinely physically reducing the risk of wildfire by putting defensible space where it needs to be, by getting people to build their homes with wildfire resilient building materials. We invite the insurance industry to have a more serious discussion about whether people that should be recognized or not, and whether that should, we should essentially be given special consideration at the community level because we have done that hard work. So that is an argument in favor of Project One. Again, I'm not sure that we are in a place to have a mature discussion about this that is not as politically twisted as the discussion we've been having in the state of Oregon and over the last year.
Well, and coming up to speed and remembering where we were at, we were going down the path of our 327, the wildfire map. I remember, it's like, well, how do we slice and dice this? And the common ground was, hey, a hot wind-driven fire could come from, east or west, north or south on an August day and really do damage anywhere in the county. Some are tree different with grasses or junipers or ponderosas or jack pine. So, we did come up with that map that basically was the county is red when it comes to conditions.
I will say one of the big pieces, just so everybody's on the same page, is with the passage of Senate Bill 83, which is the repeal of the state map. Some of those standards and how local governments can apply R327 and ultimately defensible space standards when those are released, probably sometime late in the year or early next year. So some of those standards have been opened up more broadly into how we apply them. So previously we had to go through this mapping exercise that you're referring to, Commissioner DeBonne, where we had very specific kind of parameters, basically a local version of what wound up being the state wildfire map. It seems like some of those specific prescriptions are going to go away, and it's going to be up to each individual community, whether that's a city or a county, to come up with where standards, if any standards were adopted, would apply. So there's a good bit more latitude and potentially less focus on sort of the nitty-gritty of who might be more at risk than others. So it could be based on things like property sizes or zoning characteristics, not necessarily things that are geographically focused, which does seem to have ignited, no pun intended, a bunch of the anger from the community regarding the state mapping efforts. So there is at least some change built in there that we'll expect probably next month is what we understand.
And we're already seeing out of jurisdictions like the City of Sisters that they are going to take that opportunity and they're going to impose requirements, more broadly than the draft state wildfire hazard maps were even suggesting. So
All three of these projects would go through planning commission and hearings and everything, correct? I'm just thinking what these are. So, as I say, if it's time to pull out the wildfire mitigation and mapping discussion, as I say, we were going down a path there, and having the planning commission look at the big picture, I'm not opposed to that. As I say, starting off with the concept that the community's not ready for it. I mean, the education, the Project Wildfire best practices, building techniques. I don't know that we're that far away. You know, what we saw, so now I'm thinking back to what we saw with this statewide map is, government, the state is telling us, your individual property is this. And then they say, well, my neighbor's isn't though. And how do you resolve that? And they're like, well, it's too big of a system to be able to have that discussion right now. And it just twisted people's brains. But when it comes down to wanting to, be resilient to a forest fire event, there's not a whole lot of resistance to that, especially with new construction. So as I say, I think if we just practice working together, we can whittle ourselves right into the fact that, oh yeah, this is a time to have this discussion at the county level.
So I have another trivia question then.
Trivia.
Can we build in the county a wood fence up to our house? The wood fence all the way to the house and it's touching the house? Even though we all know now that it's recommended to have at least 5 feet from the wood ending before it hits the house?
The short answer is regarding wildfire mitigation building practices at county scale. Outside of the prohibition on wooden shake roofs, we really don't have.
We don't, okay, all right. Well, I can believe it when I drive up Newport and I see all those wood fences and they're all dried out. I've said this so many times, and if people don't start listening, and the trees that are touching their roofs, just drive up Newport and you can see it. And people really need to seriously get engaged in protecting where they're living.
So as I say, wildfire mitigation may be a good priority to start with here. And I do support Terrebonne Community Plan in kind of a horizon opportunity there because, the development potential with sewer is going to be there. And it's, on the horizon somewhere, but that's pretty exciting. And then, as I say, high desert lands, we tried non-prime resource land. It's like we're just bumping up this system that's been wrenched down and sharpened to a fine edge that, I don't know how we could have a conversation about that. So I could come to that same conclusion.
I would support putting the wildfire project first. I would probably rank engagement on Senate Bill 1154 and the Terrebonne Community Plan equally for second. And then, I don't think there's much point in anything beyond that.
Well, then the 1154, it may be defining what that would look like, as I say, really helping the community understand, oh, this is interesting, doing some kind of maybe just a planning commission update, just making it an agenda item at one point for the education and future possibilities with 1154, because obviously picking that up and doing anything with it would be a lot different, but getting the brain space around it may be very valuable right now.
I do want to ask about this, one of the projects in Table 3, the urbanization coordination for land divisions near UGBs. If I'm following correctly, DLCD has awarded us a $25,000 grant for that work.
That's correct.
So is the reason we haven't initiated it yet because staff resources are lumpy? Basically you can't just say, oh, we're going to tack $25,000 onto this long-range planner's, workload to do this project. Because, if we have funding to do a project, I'm kind of baffled why we're not doing it.
Thank you. Great question. So that's currently in Nicole Mardell's queue. She thought she would be clear of the comprehensive plan by now. That hasn't happened. And we've also been coordinating with the city of Bend. So as we've reached out to our cities, the city of Bend was the only city that was interested in digging in and being a real partner on this one. Other cities in our communications with them said that they would be looking to kind of watch how that process went with the city of Bend. And one of the things that's been moving with the city of Bend is, of course, their multi-year plan for their urban growth boundary. And I've talked to my peers at the city at some length, and they've got, a kind of a multi-biennium process where they're thinking about first urban growth boundary studies, then urban growth boundary expansion, and then finally, years would these be years 5 and 6 out, thinking about urban reserves. And so one of the things that we've talked about with them is that this sits in that same discussion space about how city adjacent lands that might be urbanizable should be treated. And so it's a project that they continue to be interested in, and they had a lot moving. So we need their partnership, and they're interested in this. And we got another year basically from DLCD to work with these grant dollars.
Can I ask that when the next joint meeting that we have with the city of Bend, that we discuss this? Because I track that, and it's a logical flow of work for the city of Bend, and they're probably not getting to an urban area reserve for a very long time. So the kind of function that this project would play is, in my opinion, very much needed.
But I think it fits right into the bucket of the state legislature probably needs to maybe open the book on state land use and give a little bit of guidance, because for DLCD to write a check so you can go study something, so you can redefine something in a system that's so sharp already, I would love to see a little bit of leadership from the state on that, but we're not quite there either.
I mean, we are authorized to do this project right now, to come up with, some kind of an overlay or something right now. I don't, if we can do what we need to do right now with the authorities that we have right now, I don't see why punting it to the legislature to give us some direction is necessary.
And we'll see it differently, as I say. I mean, the system is evolving. The black and white of state law, land use, evolves over time, and sometimes that's not cool. It's like
you're waiting for something that you don't have yet. But
meanwhile,
the needs of our community are right in front of us, and we have the authority and the funding to do something about it right now.
And as I say, I've observed you're voting yes on rezones and no on rezones, even though the fact pattern of an application is substantively the same. So that's what I'm referring to. We can't have contorting concepts of how the law gets applied. So, I'm just trying to advocate for that.
This actually gets at what the difference is between the rezones that I vote yes for and the ones I vote no for. Because a primary consideration for me is whether these lands will be urbanized in the future. So, if you want more clarity in whether I'm going to vote yes or no on a given application, this project would really help with that.
I'm just pointing out that the path that was defined for an application and a fact pattern and a conclusion from a hearings officer was defined by that urban growth expansion, followed by other property owners, and there's substantively nothing different. So that's state law. So for DLCD to step up and say, here's some money to go study this problem so you can define state law through rules and analysis more, that's scary. Not when there's a one-size-fits-all statewide land use system and we're trying to make it evolve under the feet of the people.
We have a substantial amount of leeway within state law to interpret and make decisions. That is the basis upon which my fellow commissioners on a regular basis approve various rezone plan amendment and rezone applications. If you want to invite the state to ratchet down on our discretion in those areas, I would welcome it. I'm not expecting it. I'm not trying to hold up the entire rest of the world of land use and development for that. But I am operating within the jurisdictional space that we currently have and the authorities that we currently have to do the best that I can to help my community plan for growth in appropriate ways. And you are too. So, if you want to invite, blowing up the state land use planning system and starting over again, or major overhauls, I would encourage you to, be careful of what you ask for, because it may not be so favorable to the kinds of decisions that you've been making with the discretion that the state has been giving you. And B, I would say that we are going to be waiting for a very long time for something like that to happen. And in the meantime, we need to do what we can to help our community grow in appropriate ways that balance the need for housing and the needs for conservation on all kinds of fronts, that help us plan for growth in infrastructure and transportation smart ways. And the system that we have is not so bad at doing that, cumbersome as it is. All right.
I wouldn't conclude blowing it up. I've always thought of it as opening up the book and trying to have some deep discussions. So as I say, please don't put words or perceptions in the public that's farther than I'm thinking there. So good discussion though. Okay, so wildfire map support. And as I say, I mean, I think we came to some great conclusions here, because the 1154 groundwater concern area, let's learn about that, whatever that looks like. And then Terrebonne Community Plan.
Thank you. Just what I needed today. I really appreciate your help and direction.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, commissioners.
So now it's 5 minutes to 12. Do we want to go on to the next item? And thank you very much for being here. I'm just making sure we're going to be sharp for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, please proceed. Yeah, okay. You agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, so let's work our way through that. Summertime.
I'm Elizabeth Pape. I'm the county internal auditor, and I'm here to share with you summer audit update. This is something we haven't done before. We issue our individual audit reports to you. When they come out, we present them at the audit committee. Patty's a member of the audit committee, but Commissioner Chang and Commissioner DeBone don't have a chance to come to those meetings. And then we also do a presentation to the board in December, but that's really more looking at our office's performance measures and follow up on our audit recommendations. I think this will be a chance for me to just talk to you about what we've been looking at over the past year, and then also to pull out some larger themes that I've seen coming across different audits, which can point out areas that maybe are just difficult areas to manage, and then those are the challenges that everyone has, but also places maybe where departments could use more board support in reducing risk. That's the reason we're here today. So we issued 7 reports in over the past year in fiscal year 25. The first, going from sort of most recent to past, the first one was on alcohol sales at the county fair. The objective there was determine whether county alcohol sales were cost effective, looking at how the new partnership arrangement compared to the prior in-house model, and whether cash and inventory were adequately controlled. We also did a sheriff's transition audit that was released in February of 25. We always do transition audits when elected officials turn over. It's an opportunity to just take a look at take the temperature of the office and how it's performing, give the incoming elected official sort of a work plan of things that they can prioritize as they come into office. We did a language access audit that was published in January of 25. That was looking at whether the county complied with language access rules related to translation and interpretation, on whether services were effectively and efficiently provided across the county. We did a public health integrated audit in December of 24. We do integrated audits of all county departments on a rotating basis, and we have a pretty standard methodology that we look at. It's a very high level look at administrative practices across departments, looking at cash handling, information security, human resource administration, grant compliance, procurement, purchasing card use, performance reporting, and accessibility. We released a health benefits audit in September of 24. That was looking at whether human resources staff were overseeing the medical health benefits program to ensure it was cost efficient and that members were receiving the best services. We published a courthouse pre-construction audit in September of 24. That was looking at the project to rebuild the courthouse, the expansion there, to see that the project was set up for being cost efficient, how procurement practices were working, looking at project management techniques and benchmarking against other buildings that had similar buildings. And then finally, we published an RV park integrated audit in August of 24, and like the public health, that looked at similar things to what the public health audit. So first, just wanted to start with successes that we saw across all of those audits, because I think maybe sometimes people don't, audits don't get enough chance to celebrate successes, but when we looked at alcohol sales at the county fair, we saw that the management there was really responsive to changes and how alcohol is being sold in sort of festival environments across the country. Had been really responsive to changes and trying to come up with a product that was innovative and really met the service needs of the community. They also increased their profits, so that was also good to see. In the sheriff's transition audit, we saw that the outgoing sheriff and incoming sheriff met all of the transition requirements, that there was a really smooth handover of authority and resources between the two. We also noted that the sheriff had been working on a strategic plan and that was had made a lot of progress on that, and that the new sheriff was picking up an office that was already used to thinking about the future and big picture projects and working on those. For the language access audit, we want to recognize that the county and administration really recognize the needs for looking at the language access program, that was something they were interested in and engaged in and curious about. There were some departments, particularly the health department, that was really taking some strong initiatives in putting together programs to increase language access. And then we also saw a lot of staff commitment. So a lot of bilingual employees who were really passionate about providing services to people who needed assistance in language access. For the public health audit, the integrated audit, we saw a really strong procurement and grant management processes over at Public Health, and wanted to commend them on that. For the health benefits audit, we saw that employees were really satisfied with the plan that Human Resources is administering, and that Human Resources staff was doing a really good job of processing the payments and invoices coming from our third-party administrator. For courthouse construction, we saw the team really relying on outside expertise and really prioritizing hiring an owner's representative who could.
The next slide up there.
Good. Thanks. They had put together a really strong governance committee that involved all members of both facilities staff, the owner's rep, and the construction management company. And that they were really taking a very collaborative approach and working well together. And then on the recreational vehicle audit, we saw that there was consistent occupancy and revenue coming in from the enterprise. And that they had adopted a new reservation system to improve their tracking and performance reporting. But the next thing I wanted to highlight was looking at some of the themes that we saw across audits as big picture things that may be of interest to you at level. The first thing I wanted to highlight is that the cash handling issues are persisting. David, who was the previous county auditor, had started off doing cash handling audits about 20 years ago. And those issues just keep coming up over and over again. So as we cycle through, we see departments, we make findings, they fix them, but then when we come back, those findings are still there. And we're looking at things like joint handling of cash. So time when more than one person has custody of cash, and so you can't be really sure who's responsible for it. Segregation of duties where one person controls the whole process instead of having checks and balances throughout the process where someone can sort of look over another person's shoulder and make sure that they're not skimming cash. And then we also see delayed deposits is a pretty consistent problem. The county requires deposits within 24 hours and many departments are not meeting those. So those are just issues that we keep seeing again and again. They're pretty simple, pretty low level management issues. And I am curious as to why do they keep coming up? And I don't know if it's just people not making it a priority or people are focused on other things, but something that I know that we keep revisiting over and over again. The second category there is on documentation. And I think one of the things we have tried to address these issues through in the past is to ask people to have stronger policies and procedures in place. Those policies and procedures, the departments are still really struggling with putting together strong cash handling policies and procedures. So we thought, well, we'll take it a step back. We want you to do actually a risk assessment so that you understand what your risks are and then develop those policies and procedures based on that. And people are also struggling with that. So we did see actually a strong risk assessment out of public health, but still the procedures didn't necessarily reflect that risk assessment. We put together some tools for departments to use to put together a risk assessment. Those are on our shared drive site. And so we're encouraging people to take a look at that. And then another thing that we've been looking at that's really strongly related to these kinds of internal controls is related to information technology and information security. A lot of risks are moving away from cash. People aren't using cash as much, more online payments or credit card payments. But that introduces new risks related to those information security systems. So we're seeing role conflicts within security, within security systems and what actions people can perform within systems. We're seeing people can make voids without supervisor sign off, and also specifically in the health benefits audit, we saw a third-party risk. So we saw risks in giving, all that information that we are giving to our providers, our contractors who are providing information security. And then there's also risks. Now we have to understand how they're managing data as well, and how that introduces new risks. Another thing that came out was sort of a theme of governance and oversight. So thinking about rules that agencies that departments are supposed to be following from outside. And one of those was during the sheriff's transition, the
Sheriff's Office has not been, is responsible for the Central Oregon Law Enforcement Agency to submit financial reports on their behalf. They've been late for the past 2 years and had a lot of trouble getting those reports issued. So we made recommendations to them that they work more closely with our finance department to help get their financial statements in order so they could be audited. But that was an area where that's sort of like that oversight function they weren't really paying much attention to. In language access, we saw that the county wasn't giving real clear guidance to staff about language access, that the policies and procedures were sort of out of date and didn't really give direct instructions to staff about how to actually implement a language access policy. In the health benefits audit, we saw that the county was falling below its contingency level for its reserve level and not without any trigger for any action. And then on the courthouse construction, we saw there wasn't really an oversight for these large scale projects, and maybe because they're not very common, but also wanted to see more oversight related to those.
So Elizabeth, now that we're having monthly courthouse reports, don't you feel that that's a bit helpful?
I think that is helpful, yes. It's good to everyone keeping an eye on big projects like that. What else? A few more. Next thing I wanted to talk about was performance measurement. This is a topic that I think all departments in the county struggle with, and I think it's something that that I think is one that's really should be important to you, because I think the departments could be providing much more information that would be much more useful to you in making decisions about allocating resources and what to expect from departments related to performance. For the alcohol sales audit, we found that even though there had been a real big change in how alcohol was sold, and how the contractor, their partner was compensated for selling alcohol, there hadn't been any evaluation between the two programs to see what benefits or how the contract. On language access, there hadn't really been an assessment of what our language access needs are, and how we can be successful in providing those services to the community that needs them. For public health, they have a lot of performance measures, but they were very overwhelming and not really digestible, just sort of, scattershot of like all these many things, many of which they have to report to their grant funders, but not really useful to us as a community in understanding how our public health services are being provided. We also saw that in the health benefits audit. We weren't asking our contractor to give us pretty standard performance reporting. So across the industry, it's pretty standard for asking a third-party administrator to provide information on payment accuracy, financial accuracy, and timeliness, turnaround time on paying claims. We hadn't been asking for that from our contractor. And then on the recreational vehicle park audit, we recommended more performance reporting specifically on the recreational vehicle park. There is performance reporting on the financials for the park, but other performance reporting is rolled up into the county fair or the Fair and Expo Center as a whole. And so you're not getting a lot of good information about things like occupancy or things that apply directly to the recreational vehicle park. We also saw role definition being an issue. For the alcohol sales audit, there was kind of this patchwork program where it wasn't really a Fair and Expo Center managed program, and it wasn't really that the service provider was managing the program. There sort of wasn't really clear where inventory or dollars transferred from one to the other. So just clearing up that contract to make it clear who was responsible for what and where the risks lie in providing alcohol sales. And then in the language access program, there wasn't anyone in the county who was really assigned the role of overseeing the program or compliance with language access countywide. The last area I wanted to talk about was providing equitable services. So we saw before the audits that this was an issue. In the language access audit, we saw that bilingual employees were really bearing the burden of not having a clear program and felt a lot of responsibility to go above and beyond their requirements to provide interpretation services and even providing interpretation services for other staff when staff could have gone to a contracted interpretation services, but we're sort of taxing those bilingual employees instead. When we looked at the public health audit, we noted two areas where there could be increased accessibility provided to clients, and one was looking at the website, which is really a county-wide problem. Our website doesn't really comply with Americans with Disability Act requirements for sight impaired people and mobility impaired people. So I think the county as a whole is looking at that issue for our website as a whole. But then another issue we saw there was how to navigate the space. For example, a lot of their signs are hanging from the ceiling. So there's no way to use Braille to touch them to know what rooms are assigned. That was an issue. They were aware of that issue and are working on that. But that was something that we noted they hadn't gotten to yet. For the courthouse reconstruction, there were requirements in the request for proposals that contractors talk about how they would support underrepresented business owners and subcontractors in hiring them for their project. But those requirements didn't translate to the contract. So while the requests were judged on that criteria, we're not holding the contractors accountable for all areas of the proposals that they put together. And then the recreational vehicle park also had issues with its website accessibility, but they actually have an outside website, so they are also working to upgrade their website. So we always do follow-ups 9 months after. So I wanted to highlight some of where we were on some of these audits. So on the health benefits audit, the county finance and HR have recalibrated the forecasting model to try to make sure that we don't fall below that contingency level again and to have a more conservative forecasting model. They're hoping to have more accountability with the contractor in the next contract. So the contract with Pacific Sources is up pretty soon. I think it might even be up now and on an extension. But in the next round of selection, they're going to include a requirement for performance reporting in the contract. And then staff are working to document their procedures for making payments. For the courthouse reconstruction project, all of our recommendations were implemented, which we're really happy to see. There's a new contract template or contract that they're going to rely on that will include a lot more of accountability measures so that they'll be able to hold their contractor more accountable. And so we think that they're in a better position to make sure that projects in the future are delivered on time and on budget. On the recreational vehicle audit, we didn't see a lot of improvement from the RV park, but they still are committed to making improvements. They're still planning to upgrade on the website but they are not going to report on performance separate from the rest of the Fair and Expo Center. So no performance reporting specific to the RV park. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is just what we'll be looking at next year. So the audit committee has approved the audit plan for next year. We have 3 audits in process already. One is on elections, one on body cameras, and one is on homelessness. And then we have planned audits for information technology, doing an integrated audit of that department, a solid waste integrated audit. We'll be looking at procurement in the finance department. And then we'll be doing another audit of the courthouse reconstruction, looking at the post-construction. So that's all the update I have for you. So if you have any questions or want to discuss, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you very much for that overview. It gives me confidence that I'm picking up on the reports that you're, publishing, the big picture, which is what you just shared with us. So thank you so much for what we're doing there. Yeah. I don't know.
In today's world, I think, we talk about alcohol sales, but actually a lot of people want non-alcoholic drinks. And I don't know, are they broken out? I was at events at the fair where you couldn't get anything non-alcoholic, and I kept saying, Jeff, you've got to cover that side of the story. So
They're different, different vendors are offering them. And so I think the ones who offer alcohol can't offer non-alcoholic.
Oh, really?
Water. And then the ones who offer non-alcoholic can't offer alcohol. So that they may have just been in different places.
okay, well, I just think it's really important in today's world to make a choice. But thank you so much.
This RV park update, little progress, but still committed to improvements. What specifically do we want to see?
So there were we did see some issues with cash handling, and so wanted to see them do a risk assessment and stronger procedures for cash handling that's related to concurrent custody, where multiple people had access to cash, reconciling their receivables on a daily basis. And then also they hadn't changed the combination on the safe in a long time. So we wanted them to make sure they changed the combination on the safe. There were issues in their information system related to role conflicts. The staff who are actually on the ground have well-defined roles and appropriate access and permissions within the system, but management has a lot overall permissions and can do too much, and that opens up to risk because they can do too many different parts of the process without any oversight. Performance reporting was one of the issues. And like I said, they're declining to do more on performance reporting. And then the website accessibility was the other one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the update.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
That's the end of our action items. I think we do have executive session. We're gonna go in here,
Yes.
finishing up. So,
Just sitting here waiting.
yep.
Just,
All right, other items.
just
Yeah.
one quick other item. We just want to follow up from Monday's board decision,
Good.
just so that this is on the record publicly.
yeah.
It is on the record
Yeah.
publicly, but just to provide a very, very brief notice about the comprehensive plan update, written record being reopened.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, your Planning Manager, Will Groves. Want to acknowledge that the Board of County Commissioners had adopted the Deschutes County 2040 Comprehensive Plan on October 2nd. And following a petitioner's brief, we had taken that back for local reconsideration. Hearings were held, and the board engaged in first reading. And following that first reading on June 26, we received from LUBA a final opinion and order pertaining to Central Oregon Land Watch versus Deschutes County and Destiny Court Properties LLC. In that decision, there was some concern about a comprehensive plan policy from 2011 and minimum lot sizes. On July 21st, the board approved Order 2025-030, approved reopening the written record for the plan and accept new testimony and evidence specific to the Destiny Court decision, minimum lot size requirements for rural residential areas, cluster and planned unit developments, and a new policy 10.1.1, and some renumbering of other policies. And these are all available on the project website. This information is available on the project website. Just wanted to make sure we had a public service announcement here that the written testimony is limited to these topics. There will be no oral testimony, and that written record closes on Friday, August 1st, 2025 at 4 p.m. And Nicole.Mardell@Deschutes.org is the contact for any testimony you want to provide during those times. And as in previous rounds, in order to participate in this round, you had to be a party already to the process. So if you've participated in the process previously, you can participate in this reopened written record period. And any questions can be directed towards Nicole. And the website for this, for people who'd like more information, is bit.ly/Deschutes 2040 reconsideration.
So the comprehensive plan of Deschutes County reconsideration process, and then just for clarity, you said the people that had already been involved in this reconsideration process have standing or can comment on it.
That's correct. And so for those people that we have their address, they've received a mailed notice, recognizing that mail can be a bit slow. All but 2 of those parties, we have additionally email address and information, and they've been sent a courtesy notice via email to let them
Great. Okay. Good.
So only 2 parties did not have an email.
That's correct.
Was it like 350 people or how many?
So there's the people who received a courtesy notice, there's 350 participants, as well as another 700 who sit on a constant contact list. So those are people who haven't necessarily formally participated, but asked to be kept up to date on what was happening.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I guess any other items, Eastern Oregon Counties Association meeting this afternoon, 2:00, and that's in Pendleton area. So I will be dialing in remotely. We will have board meeting Monday and Tuesday next week. Is that correct? Monday afternoon and then Tuesday morning. And then also tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I'm double booked for the Core 3 meeting. So just for our agenda meeting. So just so we can coordinate something. Sorry, last minute. I just figured that out on my phone. Okay, executive session.
To ORS 192.660. The specific authorization for this executive session is ORS 192.660 2E, which allows the board to meet in order to discuss real property negotiations. Designated staff and the media are allowed to remain during the executive session. However, the media may only report that the board met in executive session and the identified basis for meeting in executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made, and at the conclusion, we will open the doors and invite the audience back into the room.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back following this session. So at this time, we're out of executive session and please proceed as discussed. Is there anything else for this board meeting? Seeing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Great.
Oh,